The mines. Monsters love it, children yearn for it, and it's kind of half of the name of the game. And while Minecraft's caves are pretty awesome, they could be so much better. So let's make a world that is only caves filled with giant dinosaurs, gummy worms, and whatever the heck this thing is. Oh no. Oh, no. We're gonna survive 100 days or die trying, and this video ends with a bang. And speaking of explosions, we just released a brand new game on leg.gg called Blowout. I made it in a week, it's a ton of fun, and it will get you saying just one more game. Just one more game. If you want to play, link is down in the description. It is free for everybody. There's no pay to win on the server at all, and I'd really love it if you went and checked it out. But that's enough for me. Let's get started in this adventure, day 1. And I would love to do a nice, wholesome intro, but there are a whole lot of mobs, and we need to run. Skeleton. Oh, creepers too. That's the big creeper that's the tiny one that's super fast. I am in so much trouble. Just run to the light. That's a vampire. If that tries to chase me, I'm gonna die. I have one chance. That's a giant squid. Oh, this is already going so badly. I take it back. We have a chance. Oh, and that's already one of the new caves. Oh, that's exciting. This is the Candy Caverns, a region where everything is rainbows, unicorns, and giant gummy worms who want to consume you after popping up out of the cake-covered ground. It's one of a few really unique biomes that we're gonna try to explore in this 100 days. And despite its looks, it is super dangerous. I swam over towards the mine shaft that was out over the lake, just trying to get a single piece of wood, and the game was just not having it. That's the worm. Oh my god. It's like the dune sand. Everything is trying to kill me. I was surrounded by worms and squids and huntsman skeletons who can shoot crazy fast, and I just need to be able to get myself some tools. I swam over to another portion of the mine shaft, finally being able to break a singular plank, which let me put it up against the leg so that I could stand and not have the water penalty, mining up a few logs and making myself a crafting table and a few wooden tools. And it turns out they're a little unique. Oh, that sucks. But really bad tools is just icing on the cake. You see what I did there? Because I had to deal with tiny little chicken-sized creepers and vampires hunting me down. This is so bad. I think I have one shot on how to live, and it's gonna be close. I attached myself to another leg of the mine shaft, using all of the logs, turning them into planks and pillaring up onto solid ground, having to immediately dive back off again when a vampire came way too close to me, hitting on the coastline and being surrounded by zombies, just running down a tunnel, hoping for the best, blocking it up behind me. I am trapped underground with no food and wooden tools, mining at the walls, which, as it rolled over to day 2, I realized were edible. And we're not the only thing stuck in the tunnels here. There was loot to be found. What is this? Each block used a wormhole ability. I don't know what any of this is. What is this? Silver upgrade. Okay, great. Yeah, sure. That backpack is a lifesaver because I have a feeling we're gonna find a lot of different items and storage and loot management is going to be difficult. I did find a small patch of just regular cobblestone hidden amongst all of the cake here, which allowed me to upgrade all of my tools to stone, building myself a furnace and just heading out now slightly better equipped. I disarmed a TNT minecart and then immediately got chased by one of those jumpy little creeper things, having to have it explode further back before I could find a mineshaft, a barrel, a bit of loot, and a heart attack. Oh my god. Oh, what does this do? For every 25 blocks overcome by a horse called by the ability. I don't know what any of these things do. To others removing caution. They gain invisibility effect. Interacting with objects in the world creates an area where invisibility no longer applies. Oh, that is So cool. So that scarf is an artifact. There's a bunch of items that exist in this world that have all of these crazy good powers, which you can find, unlock, and upgrade. This one specifically made it so that I could actually safely traverse through the initial little bit of this tunnel to be able to get my starter kit. And it's the best I'd ever done. I died like 4 times by this point. I trapped a huntsman skeleton in one of the areas, being able to finally take them out by slashing at their ankles. That skeleton is brutal. I got another backpack. Landing myself an upgraded bow and a second backpack as I found the rear exit of the mine shaft here, being able to head out and take a look out over the Candy Caverns. And I'm relying pretty heavily on this invisibility to keep me alive, as I don't know how hard everything hits, I don't know how dangerous everything is, and I desperately need to upgrade. So I was really excited when I found a rascal just running around the mineshaft here and was able to make a friend. Hello, rascal. Thank you. Oh, that's massive. Silk touch. Okay, we have, you can't see me. We have a chance. I'm putting this back on. Ow, ow, ow. Why is it every food poisons me? I spent a little bit of time cowering in the corner while eating bread going into day 3, where more of those creepers awaited me. I am in so much danger. Being able to just try to axe crit things and run away to get outside of the detection radius for the scarf is going to be a way that I'm going to be able to survive early game, but there's no way this is feasible in the long term. So I'm going to need to go out and upgrade some armor. I searched all of the barrels around here, picking up some additional torches, redstone, rope, copper, everything that is useful except for anything I can actually make an armor out of. At the other end of the tunnel, there's actually even a miner villager who'd be willing to trade, and a couple more rascals who I started chasing around trying to see if I could get some more loot. Hello. Thank you. Okay, backpack is already a mess. I had to spend a little bit of time going through all of the items I had, trying to understand them, organizing and playing a little bit of loot Tetris, making myself a valuables and treasure backpack, as well as the one that I wanted to just keep on my back, which had all of my essential supplies, food, and going through all of the torches that wouldn't stack for some reason and causing them all to reset. I tried to trade with the miner villager, but didn't have many supplies there, finding a small little camp which had a bed inside, which would allow me to sleep through the night. Not that that makes a difference, really. We're always underground, and while the night vision goggles are making it that I can see, it is pitch black in a good portion of this world most of the time. All of the time. It's actually all of the time. I don't know why I'm saying most of the time. But I kept exploring through the tunnels of the cave, heading down a trapdoor and getting into a very sticky situation. Oh, that was almost really bad. Mining around the spider spawner to access the chest that was hidden down here, getting a pickaxe heater, which means everything I mine up is going to auto smelt. So that's awesome. I made my way back up to the main area of the cave, finding a goblin trader who would trade raw materials for an increased number of their smelted variants. So I put down all of the gold, took off the pickaxe heater right away, traded in the raw gold and raw copper that I had collected, and had my friend here give me the hookup. All right, day 4. I know we've been in this mine shaft for a little while, and I'm sorry about that, but it is kind of it's the safest place we can be right now. Crafting myself up some iron armor, dumping all of my stone into one of the chests here, mining to find myself some silver, so now I know what that upgrade template is for, eating the chocolate blocks that I have been collecting, and working my way through the last couple tunnels, collecting some redstone, lapis, and finding another miner trapped in the floor who didn't really have anything to sell me. Hello? I was finally able to check out the campsite on the other side of the mines, picking up a little bit of iron from there, smelting that up so I can get myself some boots, collecting a lot more blocks from the candy cave area before making my way back through the mines towards the entrance that I had gotten into this trouble from, and heading out, killing a wolf and jumping into the lake to swim across, avoiding whatever the heck that candy cane man thing is. That candy cane machine thing is horrifying. Swimming away from some very bitey fish, heading up into a separate area of the mine shaft, and then digging up from there, landing myself directly into a zombie spawner, which I was able to clear out and loot up everything from all of the chests here, finding a few diamonds right next to a little pond in a cave connected to this spot, and then a whole lot more underneath the water in the next little noodle cave directly heading out. That gave me more than enough to upgrade to some diamond pants and a diamond pickaxe, mining up and out of the spawner and in through another little noodle cave, dropping onto another campsite which had a bunch of diamonds sitting inside, and just trying to figure out what my next move is. What the... What was I just high? What was that? Recovering from a little bit of a sugar rush, I fought a mimic who attacked me at the next campsite that I went to go visit, picking up some speed-enhancing claws from there that would allow me to attack even faster. At the end of this cave was actually a little bit of an underground village, copper-roofed, some crops growing around that I could run around and collect, and a few overworld animals, which I'll have to come back because I'm being hunted down by these giant mega creepers who are blowing up everything I can see. This cave also borders with the candy cave still, so I have to deal with those candy cane men just coming through and trying to stab me, and they do decent damage, but the fact that I'm in full iron and partial diamond at this point is probably a mitigating factor keeping me alive. The fact that I can also go invisible, that's super useful, and they drop their sharpened arms when they die. Okay, let's be honest here. We all made little candy cane shivs when we were kids. We all did. We all know it. But unfortunately, this village was fully infected, so I trapped a few of the zombie villagers in a boat that I could potentially come back and cure them, making a new village at some point in the future, being constantly harassed by more creepers, looting the final bits of the chests, and picking up a couple diamond blocks here and there. I grabbed the brewing stand from inside the church because I still will always do that, heading over and in towards the candy caves proper, hiding on top of the buildings as the giant gummy worm was jumping in and out of the ground around me. Fought myself another mimic as I slowly snuck my way out of the bright pink potential disaster area, running through some dripstone caves and into some slightly more traditional ones, seeing another one of the awesome Alex's cave biomes in the distance. I think I have found where I will want to live. Oh, this is gonna be fun. This is the Primordial Caves, a land lost to time filled with giant trees and dinosaurs. And it is most likely the most survivable biome that we have down here in the underworld, as it's bright, has massive trees, a lot of supplies, and the dinos, they kind of announce when they're going to attack. And my first day in this prehistoric paradise, well, it was an eventful one. Hi. We're friends. We're friends. Awesome. Oh no, more of those little creeper things. Oh my goodness, that's so difficult. Fiddlehead. Okay, okay. Tree stars. Gather a tree star, the favorite food of... Oh, it's a Land Before Time reference. Oh, that's so adorable. This is cool. Can I? I have defaced priceless archaeological information. Oh no. Oh no, they can see me. You can see me. Nope, you can see me. Run, run away, run away, run away. Are you friendly? You seem friendly. Isn't this a vibe? Prehistory? Cake. The dichotomy of man. Are these gummy bears? Oh, hold on. Oh my god. Oh, Oh, that thing almost obliterated me. So while I avoided the gummy bear that almost absolutely murked me, I was recovering health on the border of the prehistoric and candy caves, finding this little deep slate structure with a lot of gravel here that's totally not archaeology, with a little bit of loot inside the chest, grabbing myself some wood from some of the ancient trees in the prehistoric caves, and then jumping into the lake right here, fighting a few ancient lobster-looking creatures and grabbing a couple diamonds. The lake actually bottomed out into another cave where I was able to loot another little campsite and find even more diamonds, putting myself up on one of the giant pillars up out of the water to craft myself up a full set of diamond armor to make this much more survivable. Why do I have an extra heart? Yo! I have an extra heart! Oh, that's so cool. Okay. But I slowly watched as the gummy worm dug by, swimming in the opposite direction over into the prehistoric lands, harvesting up a little bit more wood the following morning, collecting this very cool amber monolith looking thing, and just trying to figure out what would be a good place to potentially settle down for the long term. I can see this being 100 days where I have multiple bases, or I'm going to be going out on a lot of adventures, so home will need to be centrally accessible, and I'm thinking the border of multiple biomes is probably a good shout. While I was searching for potential house candidates, I found this giant Sculk structure right here that looked like it had been partially bisected by the actual terrain generation, because something tells me I shouldn't be able to walk into this thing. And that's probably the fact that it tries to kill you. Ow. Oh my God. Water, 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 water. Oh, 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 that was almost so bad. That was far too close, but I'm really glad I survived it. Eating most of the candy that I had collected just to get myself back up to full health, marking that trap and the danger, and finally crafting myself up a shield so that I could deal with all of the raptors here, as I don't need to hold a torch in the offhand in the already naturally illuminated prehistoric cave. But a shield doesn't help when there's like 10 of them trying to attack you at once, so instead I ran again, just very bravely retreated, finding a small little area with a pond that is filled with these trilobites. I don't know how to pronounce this word. It's far too many syllables. But they drop their tails, and while I was farming them, the phantom spawned, so I slept. And while I went to sleep, I dreamed of this brand new cave-themed merch at Legundo.store. We made a new t-shirt design, a pullover hoodie, and our first printed poster commemorating my underground adventure here. So if you want to pick it up, it is available right now, link in the description or down underneath this video. The next morning, I kept working my way through and around the pond, harvesting up whatever I could, crafting myself up a diamond sword so I could be a little bit more efficient at the killing part of things to fight off the raptors that had swum all the way over here from like 100 blocks away. They are relentless in tracking you down. There were some diamonds under the water, which I made sure to collect, killing as many trilobites as I could to be able to get as many tails as possible, clearing out a few individual raptors that I ran into to try to make sure that they couldn't form too big of a pack and overwhelm me. Oh, big boy, we're leaving. Running away from the Tremorsaurus, who is the king of these prehistoric caves, I found a nearby building and decided to just hold up here for a bit, looting the chests, blocking the doors, taking a quick little nap, and then spending a good portion of day 10 trying to make this house into a home. Putting down some chests, trying to clear out a little bit more space here, putting that cool little amber thing, which had a dinosaur inside. Editor's note, I didn't know that that was how these things spawn yet. I thought it was just a cool little trophy. So I had dinosaurs that would spawn inside my house later. Just trying to get everything stored and organized. My backpack was overflowing at this point. I was out of food, so I had to cook all those trilo tails to just get myself something, smelting up all of the raw materials into their ingot form from the few rare times that I didn't have my pickaxe smelter on, just to store inventory inventory space. I then made myself a smithing table and tried to figure out how to use those silver upgrades. They didn't go on diamond gear. I couldn't tell if they belonged on iron, and I was just compressing all of my equipment and inventory down when I heard a "Hurr" of a little goblin friend outside and decided to go out and do some business. The goblin didn't actually have anything worthwhile to trade for, so I had to run my way back inside as soon as the Tremosaurus had caught my scent. You come to me? Yeah, it seems like you're coming to me. I do not feel safe. Mainly because of that. The following morning, once the Tremosaurus had run away, I picked up a lot of my stuff, killing a ladybug right outside the door, which actually gave me regen. That's gonna be really useful to know. I headed out just mining a few different ores and things that I could find, when suddenly every ladybug in the area was suddenly trying to take me out. Why are all the ladybugs suddenly very mad at me? It's like the ladybug hive mind. No, they're always mad at me. Now that I had upset the ladybug armada, I made my way over towards another one of the ancient structures here, just grabbing all of the charcoal and other supplies, taking a look at this vine growth ring that I had found, which supposedly could make me like Spider-Man up to the ceiling above me with vines. Although, I'm gonna be honest here, I never actually figured out how to make it work. Full 100 days, never got it to work once. I dealt with a few more raptors that were hunting me down, and the double jump boots are actually doing really good to allow me to stay mobile and outflank them as they're constantly hopping over to eat me. But it won't help me escape another Tremosaurus. I dealt with a few more raptors before starting to do a little bit of mining on a tree, and with double jump I can actually get up closer to the top, be able to mine this whole thing because I don't want to leave floating trees. I'm not a menace, looking at you, Tanisha. But it's tricky to be able to get up here, and there has to be a better way. But since I'm getting wood, I figured let's get some other supplies as well, mining into one of the columns, picking up a whole lot of cobblestone, actually finding a layer of sandstone that I was able to clean up as well, getting a decent bit of supplies and thinking, you know, this alcove right here, this nice little basin area might serve as a good potential base location. I took the limestone and realized I could craft up some limestone spears, which I can use to throw at dinosaurs. So I just threw a stack and a half of them at one of these tall purple and blue dinosaurs, and it did next to nothing, honestly. That's so many spears. How much health do you have? Oh my god. Okay, we got the dino chop. That's wonderful. Oh, and there's lobsters in there too. Okay, yeah, this is a really good spot. I like this spot. So considering and kind of committing to putting down at least a starter base right here, I put down the sandstone floor, taking a look at what I could do with all of the different limestone options, realizing that if I could go get myself a stone cutter, I could make the chiseled and smooth variants, just make this look really, really nice. But to get a stone cutter, I need stone. I need just vanilla normal stone. And with all of these biomes and me being so deep that I'm heavily into the deep slate layer, that's been really hard to find. I was able to get some andesite, which will be nice for different create mod things. That will all be useful, but I'm not finding any normal stone. Oh no. They're attacking the Triceratops. There's so many of them attacking that Triceratops. Oh, but they're doing actually really good. Okay, don't mess with the Triceratops. I'm just standing here up on my pillar watching the dinos fight each other. I did some more digging around, kind of striking out on getting any bits of useful rock, having one whole piece of cobblestone to my name, fighting a few other raptors as I started heading towards the edge of the area, checking on a few other different stone types, trying to see what can be turned into stone for a grindstone and what can't. I passed by a few other really ancient relic sites, checking out and looting a few more identical houses to the one that I was currently calling home, continuing continuing to dismantle anything that is potentially useful in all of these, including all of the different wood supplies from the roof of this specific one, just so I can make myself a few slabs and fences on the cheap. I'm killing any trilos that I see to get myself additional tails. I'm fighting all of the raptors that are constantly harassing me, and I'm realizing I'm lost. So the problem here is I failed to mark anything so far in this world. I didn't mark the building where I'd put down all of my loot. I didn't mark the potential new place where I'd put down the sandstone platform and was considering to turn that into a base. Oh no, I've lost my stuff. So I tried to just run backwards, retrace my steps, fighting raptors along the way, finding a few other structures, mostly unlooted, and trying to get up high, seeing what I could see. I knew that I had gone over near the Sculk area, so I decided to start heading in that direction. Finding another one of those ponds that had a ton of trilos in it, which is great because I was totally out of food. Getting attacked by another mimic and clearing that out for a cowboy hat, which I won't use just right away. Smoking up the trilo tails to be able to feed myself, and finding a spider spawner right here and figuring out that the ladybug actually attacked the spiders too. Do they eat spiders? Oh, that's really cool if they do. Hellfire. Oh, that could be fun. Let's go. That is a wonderful get out of jail free card if I've ever seen one. Yeah, they eat spiders. That's very cool. With a potential really easy source of string set up, I fought a few more raptors and a few more trilos, mining up any diamonds that I found near the bottom of this lake for cooking up the dino chop and realizing that it can be crafted into some snacks. Oh, it's too good. It's too good. Lobster tails and chicken nuggets. Yep. This is Minecraft, all right. I did a bit more of the trilo murdering and diamond mining because we all know we yearn for the mines before heading up towards a nearby ridge, which kind of overlooked the dinosaur prehistoric area, the Sculk area nearby, some generic caves, and the candy caves just to the north. And I'm thinking this might be a potential good spot. I had a quick little snack and made a pretty big realization. It changes shape every time. That's amazing. Before climbing up one of the nearby trees, having to manually break every single branch of this, as well as a few of the other shorter trees and just general underbrush, clearing it out to make a space that I could start turning into a home. That work just kept going throughout the rest of the day, putting down a lot of different supplies and clearing out the area before starting to throw down some sandstone platforms, this time being much more intentional of actually remembering where I had set. Excuse me. After a quick nap, I tried to make a grindstone using all of the different stone variants that I had collected for myself, and unfortunately, none of them work. So I put down a chest, threw a whole bunch of supplies in here, and decided to head over towards the kind of normal cave area to see if I can ascend and work my way up to find the normal stone layer. I blocked my first arrow with my shield. Apparently the dino claws don't quite count. Dealing with a few creepers and heading over and upward. Picking up an additional set of feral claws from one of the mimics and then just starting to climb. I made it up to the kind of andesite stone, generic stone layer, but this mod pack has so many different types of stone and so much more of a mess that actually finding something that mined out to regular cobblestone, which could be used for crafting the stone cutter, took me a while. When I was on the way back, I had to throw some spears at one of those tiny little creepers, using honey blocks to try and slow my fall, but doing so somewhat unsuccessfully, running away from a skeleton huntsman as I swam my way across the lake, making it back into the prehistoric zone. I passed by another one of those ancient ruins, seeing if there was anything there, heading up to my hill and setting up a smelter to cook the cobblestone into regular stone, while I started thinking about an outer barrier and outer defenses. I'm gonna go with wood to kind of lean into the Jurassic Park theming and vibe here, making a dinosaur kind of containment cage, realizing that it was off by one and I had to redo a good portion of the placement of the main posts on the outside, crafting up my stone cutter, fighting a few raptors, and cutting out the anthracite. This is actually an ore that if you cut turns into a fuel source. One chunk only smelts 2 items compared to coal's 8, but it is far cheaper, just requiring you to have the tools to actually use it. So that's going to be useful as I start working on smelting up and placing down a whole bunch of limestone. I'm actually going to go for a little bit of a 2-tower, multi-tiered sort of approach right here, having a research and storage tower and then my general living quarters on the other side. I'm using the limestone columns for the corners mainly, just using different variants of smooth and cut, chiseled, and all sorts of different options, and then taking the jungle wood from the ancient jungle trees that I had collected here to make a second layer and start working on a little bit of a roof with the with a big ancient prehistoric trees, going for a nice simple slanted design and then texturing that with all of the different trapdoors, fences, and other options. I built a small little second-story bridge from one structure to the other, just carrying that up to be able to build the overall profile, moving all of my supplies inside and using fence posts to close off the windows, taking a quick nap in a finely sealed, safe, and secure home. The next morning, IRL, not as tired as I am. Never do late night building, everybody. It never turns out well. I started texturing in some additional blocks on the bottom of the base, throwing in some mud bricks and packed mud, working on closing out and texturing the roof, making it look not quite perfect as it is just manually built in prehistoric times, before making myself a diamond axe as my stone one had broken, throwing in a few stripped logs and a few unstripped ones as well, making it look uneven and imperfect. I feel like that fits this area a lot better. I made a few fence posts to work on combining out for the bridge between the two structures, making myself a small little porch out of jungle logs and working that down to the ground, closing it up and throwing a few little woods, decorations, signs, and trapdoors along the walls to again lean into that patchwork and incomplete feel. I worked on the tower itself, finding a few of the other blocks that I had collected in my search for something that can actually become a stone cutter. Actually works really well in the gradient here, making it look a little muddy and dirty leaking in from the ceiling. But I was out of mud bricks, so I went over towards that nearby structure that I had just recently found, which is sitting on 3 layers of packed mud. So I was able to mine up a good chunk of that just to fill my pockets with supplies, deciding to go over and check out the Sculk area nearby and see what exactly was around here and if anything interesting could be discovered. Ow. Oh, those bites. I slowly snuck my way through the Sculk area, and try saying that 3 times fast, finding a giant tentacle here, accidentally upsetting it, and having it burrow down into the ground, immediately summoning a warden. Instant warden. Instant warden? Oh, that was a one-shot warden. Yeah, that's right. Go kill everything but me. Okay. We need to stay away there. So I decided to stay out of trouble in the deep dark area, instead focusing on killing a few endermen to land a few pearls, grabbing a little bit of this kind of peach sandstony but not quite looking block, which I forget the name of right now, dealing with a few raptors, going out and mining up another one of those obsidian monoliths, and then once the warden had despawned, checking out some of these really tall pots right on the edge of the border of the Sculk area. Breaking them dropped some really cool loot, and they're guarded by these skeletons which you kind of have to kill twice. It's almost Sculk Horde, but not quite exactly. It's definitely some kind of evolved and stronger variation, as there's these little baby wardens that walk around and spread Sculk in their path. I was able to kite them, so I didn't actually even figure out how hard they hit, as I was able to stay pretty far back, but killing them dropped some interesting loot. Okay, they're killable. Okay. This place is spooky. But I am nothing if not very easily distractible, because despite being afraid of the giant looming heartbeat and the ominous hive mind that wants to consume all flesh, there's a flower that makes me go bounce. Oh, that's cool. Why does that have so much teeth? I hate that. But now knowing that those giant black kind of screaming pots drop items, I returned back to the structure that almost killed me, working my way around the edges, mining out all of the individual ones, getting a whole bunch of enchanted books, before heading up to the actual chest on the top and thinking, I don't know how to open it, so let me just smack it for a while. It didn't really seem like it was working, so instead I just returned back to mining all the pots on the outer edge, getting a whole bunch of different supplies, a lot of them very Sculk themed, which kind of makes sense considering they're in giant ancient vases inside some sort of Sculk structure. But I wasn't quite ready to give up just yet, so I returned back to my little post and just kept smacking on the chest for a while, thinking at some point it's gotta die and drop something, right? If it's an entity that can take damage, there has to be a reason. Oh. Oh my God. I don't even know what all of this does, but it feels really good. So with a whole host of treasure from this chest that I just needed to kind of beat up for 5 minutes, I started thinking about all of the other treasure that I had left behind. Knowing that I had been at this structure before, I tried to follow and retrace my steps, heading to each of the individual prehistoric structures that I could find here, trying to find the one that I had previously called home. I found ones that I definitely hadn't. They were filled with dino nuggets and tablets and tough leather, and they were actually pretty common. They're kind of everywhere right here. And the cave paintings on all of the walls make me think that these places were once someone's home. I don't know who, I don't know when and how long ago since they'd left, but I wasn't finding anything other than dinosaurs around here. And considering most of them want to eat me, that's probably a reason. But eventually, instead of finding my way towards my old house, I doubled my way back, making a whole big circle towards what I'm going to call my base, having to spend some time deciding what and where I'm gonna store everything, turning the second floor into a bit of a Sculk / enchanted book research station, trying to figure out what that mask would do, realizing that I had to put it on in place of my armor instead of my night vision goggles, so that's kind of an immediate hard pass. I took a quick little nap so I didn't have to worry about phantoms, and the following morning investigated what I could make with materials from the primordial caves. There's a few items that definitely caught my attention: a catalyst, the extinction spear, but I could really only make a primitive club, taking that out and experimenting on a few raptors to see exactly what it does. Oh, it bonks people. That's awesome. The rest of the day was actually pretty chill from that point. I spent some time running around, killing a few raptors by bonking them on the head, checking out a few of the structures that were around here, both looting the chests and trying to find where I had left all my stuff behind. I ate through all of my dino nuggets while chopping a few of these giant trees, getting attacked by a few raptors, but being able to hold that off now with better armor and equipment, and chewing through the remainder of my trilo tails. So I'm totally out of food. I mined up a little bit of the amber that was actually on the ground compared to attached to the ceiling, spent a little bit of time hunting trilos in a nearby small pond, dealing with a few raptors that followed me over that way, and mining some diamonds and gold the following morning. I ate up a few of the baked cave carrots that I was actually holding in my backpack, so I wasn't totally out of food, but I was at least out of food that I could remember. Object permanence is apparently a thing for me. I'm noticing a trend. But I mined up another cluster of amber, getting one of the amber soul glowy blocks from the middle of it. Those are the ones that are causing those cool little god rays from inside, and they serve as an actual proper lighting block. I headed over towards one of the nearby bird's nests, smashed a Terra egg, and then just legged it once everything was screaming. Deciding to avoid the Tremosaurus that started running in my direction and jumping back over into the lake that I had been in previously, finding a few diamonds that I had missed, killing a few trilos, and then heading over towards the somewhat more natural cave area, fighting a whole ton of zombies and figuring out that while cool, the spears aren't exactly big damage dealers. Nope, get me away from the vampire. I took advantage of the pickaxe warmer to get, well, diamonds aren't really affected, but gold, iron, and the copper that I got the following morning were all super useful, being turned immediately into their ingot form. I made sure to throw down a waypoint to my house so I wouldn't forget it and lose it, just running around and grabbing supplies out in the normal caves before starting to edge around the corner and head back into the primordial caves, where I found a relic of Gundo's past. No way. Oh my god. That was terrifying. That's a T-Rex spawner. With a former base location and an area that I very much should avoid both identified, I returned my way back home, using some of the iron, gold, and diamonds that I had collected to fully upgrade my backpack several tiers, taking a quick little nap and taking the cooked trilo tails and making myself some food. Oh, it doesn't stack. It doesn't stack. Well, good news is we have a lot of space. Oh, haste. Okay, that's really good to know. So it turns out that's not the only use these soups have, but having soups that could make me really good at mining, really good at other things, it's a useful thing to keep in my back pocket. I spent some time taking all of the logs that I had been collecting, either in log or in slab form, to start building out the actual proper exterior wall of the base. Slightly going with the contours of the ground, but mainly trying to stay pretty consistent and square, having this look very much like a proper man-made structure in the middle of this historical lost wasteland. I'm using the slabs for the fences just so nothing can get through, closing everything off, trying once again to figure out how the ring of vines work. Spoiler alert, I genuinely never figure out how it works. The following morning, realizing that the way I had built this, there's a little bit of a gap across the bottom of the fence. No. No, leave me alone. Get inside the fence. Okay, that's attacking the other dinosaurs, so we're okay. We're fine. But lucky for me, they weren't focused on me at the moment. But I thought I could block up some of the gaps in the fences with chains to make it look like this is kind of like an electrified fence. So I headed over towards the normal caves area where there was a very open and very chain heavy mine shaft just above my head. The only problem is there's a ton of mobs right here on my level. A bunch of zombies and skeletons, which on their own aren't that bad, but the huntsman version of the skeleton, which shoots like a Gatling gun, that's a bit of a problem. And the multiple forms of creepers, including one who's fast enough to run past my shield and knock me down to half health, that's an even bigger problem. But I can't complain. It's not all bad. Was that a god apple in a pot? That was. Those pots have deep dark loot in them. What? Oh, that's so good to know. Okay, I need to go up. I wish I had rope. I had rope, and then I lost the rope when I left one of my houses behind. But me wasting time down here on the ground isn't gonna solve my problem of going and getting all of those chains, even if I'm staring at the weird kind of creepy putty creature across the... Ugh. I cleared out a few more mobs, grabbing a bucket of water, using that to ascend up one of the legs of the mine shaft, just kind of climbing a waterfall like you casually do in Minecraft. Grabbing a few things out of the chest, which I have more than enough space for in my upgraded backpack, dealing with a vampire by throwing a few stakes right through its heart, and then finishing it off with a sword. I was suspicious. Those vampires felt a little more dangerous, so I'm not gonna lie, that genuinely felt almost too easy. I'm worried there's a gotcha waiting around the corner, but instead, I just found a time turner. Return to where along the route traveled after a certain amount of time. Repeated use will turn. Wait, what? Let's test this thing. Oh, that's a get out of jail free card. Now, I'm not gonna lie, okay? That I abuse the power to rewind time and space to do the most mundane things. I would be the worst person in the world to entrust with superpowers because I would just use them to somehow be lazy. Case in point, I'm just kind of running around the mine shaft right here. I get a blessing of the sunbird. So I use that to stab exactly one zombie and a few dogs before running around and just starting to mine up the chains. It actually rolled over to the next day because I was at it for so long, just trying to get all of the resources so I could work on completing my base. And as soon as I was threatened with an actual like superpower level danger event, well, just watch. I'm not gonna lie, that looks like the biggest bucket of nope I've ever seen. What are you? Now look, I wasn't completely a coward. I'm still fighting a bunch of the mobs here. Taking out a couple of the vampires with giant spears that I really hope count as stakes. Maybe that's why they're going down so easy. And dealing with whatever the little kobold zombie baby thing was. Before dealing with all of the creepers at the other end of the mine shaft, I jumped my way off, spending the rest of the night just hunting down lobsters for food and then making my way back over towards the base, putting a lot of the chains along the very bottom of the wall and hanging a few from the central bridge so that everything looks nice and pretty. But I need a little bit of water here, so I went down to the water, and now you see exactly how I use my complete and total power over the concept of time. Oh, that is so cool. Using that as a quick shortcut back, I just started establishing a little bit of space for a potential crop plot or two. Starting to mine all of that out, planting down a lot of the vegetables, tubers, and other things I had collected, or at least trying to, because there is no block light level, despite this biome being lit from above. So instead, I needed to put down that light emitting crystal thing right here just on top of the crops, so they'd be able to grow. Heading off into a random direction just to pick up a little bit of dirt that wasn't directly next to the house so that everything would look nice, dealing with a few raptors along the way, and then setting up that crystal a little bit higher floating up so that everything is still nicely lit, but it fits with the vibes of this magical glowy crystals making everything work. It's like magnets. But all the crops broke when I moved the crystals, so I had to replant all of them, taking some of the bone meal that I had been collecting, using that to accelerate some of the growth to get a few more copies of seeds or a few of the other things that I needed to just start growing out the farm exponentially. Just as I was about to call it a day, I had a goblin trader show up, and unfortunately, even checking the enchanting books I had on the second floor, I didn't really have anything to offer them. The next day started out as a really quiet one. I was once again out of food, which is why you see me growing crops and everything, so I had to head on down to the pond again to go kill myself some more trilos. Having a few raptors follow me, that's not a problem, I can deal with that. It's when the Tremosaurus made its way into the lake that I started having an issue. Oh my God. Oh, I got you. It only takes a god apple to kill one. No big deal. Everything's fine. That was possible best case conditions. Those things are terrifying. But having barely survived a Tremosaurus attack, I made my way back up towards home, cooking up all of the different Trilo tails and the Dino chop, making myself a whole bunch more stews because I had done a little bit of IRL research between the last few days and this one, and those soups, they serve another purpose. Oh, this is the best thing ever. You too. This is the best thing ever. More smash? More smash? Yes! This is the best way to ever collect wood. Now that I had figured out a lot of the mechanics, this and collecting wood from these trees feels like a breeze compared to how much of a nightmare it was to do manually. And as long as we've tamed one dinosaur, we might as well grab some of those supplies and head over and tame ourselves another. Oh, look at this. Being able to fly through these caves, this is huge. I can cover distance so much quicker now, running from POI to POI, grabbing everything that seems even remotely useful, even hitting up some of the higher and harder to access areas of the cave just to see what resources are available. I spent time flying around and exploring, figuring out exactly how to control and park my dino before coming across the same deep slate brick and gravel structure that I encountered a long time ago. This is the one I already dug up, right? No, this is not. I could really I just want to find the stuff I left behind. But with that not being the exact same one, but reminding me that there has to be some way to be able to figure out where I had gone and retrace my steps, I started flying back towards home, figuring out that I need to like tell the dino to actually stay to get them to stay. I could just make you stay. We have to build like a landing. Oh, we have to. We have to. That's going to be so cool. So I tried to move my Subpteranodon into the base, and it wasn't actually them. So instead, I went over and figured out and found where mine was actually parked, jumping on and then having a, well, oh my. Oh no. That was almost so bad. With my ankles very thoroughly shattered and my legs properly undone, I was hiding inside the house just to recover, accidentally clicking on the wall with some charcoal and figuring out, oh, that's how you make the cave paintings. Oh, that is cool. So deciding to just decorate the heck out of my house with that as it rolled over to day 30. That day I was just hoping to finish the fence. I used all of the wood that I had and then had to go out and mine a little bit of it manually as I didn't have any more soups, carving a very tiny little 1x1 door in the fence, which in retrospect looks very dinky. We will be updating it soon. But I decided to turn the secondary tower I had made into a bit of an elevated landing pad, getting the same slanted roof that I was using on the main structure, just at a 90-degree angle, but making a large flat spot on the top of this tower, decorating it with a few little bits of trapdoors and signs, and parking my Subpteranodon, but then accidentally telling them that they could go fly away, which they very much did, and I had to spend about a good 5 minutes just chasing them down to once again mount them and then tell them to park, working on some railings, some additional decorations and cave paintings around both structures. I ended the night with just a little bit of farming, a quick few Trilo tails as snacks, and the following morning crafted up a few lanterns, which I could hang on fence posts around here. I don't need them. The whole area is quite bright to begin with, but it feels right to have them, and it would be the kind of thing that I would have in a big structure like this. So throwing down torches and other light, mainly for decoration's sake, not so much the functionality of them actually preventing spawning. But you know what's super functional though? My crops. Harvesting up a whole bunch of baked potatoes and other things, setting that to all cook in the furnaces, smokers, and smelters, and crafting down a lot of the copper that I had mined in its raw form into ingots and then down into blocks. I then spent a little bit of time while all of those were running investigating what the Sculk cave options could really give me. There's a few different Sculk-centric armor sets, which allow me to be undetected by sensors, or if I was feeling spicy, allow me to do a sonic boom attack myself, but that's gonna require a pretty big investment overall, and well, I might be super easy to commitment in real life, but in Minecraft I'm indecisive, and I want to see what my options are. I jumped on my Subpteranodon and started flying north, passing the Sculk area, making my way into some ice caves, and finding a very interesting aqueduct-looking structure off in the distance. It was populated by pillagers with rocket-launching crossbows that would do damage even through my shield, so I had to be very careful here playing the angles. Mainly throwing spears to do a whole bunch of damage, but going in and getting in close and personal when necessary to be able to clear things out. This got me my aqua boots, which allow me to run on water, but still have me preventing taking fall damage by landing on it. That made navigating the structure way easier since I'm not stuck in ankle-deep puddles, grabbing the last few chests, which was mainly a whole bunch of prismarine resources, a little bit of iron, and a few enchanted books. I did find Poland's flag, so I made sure to hold on to that. Gotta show some respect for my history, grabbing a few things from a nearby campsite, including some Dwarven mead. Whoa, that's really, really good. I headed back over to the Subpteranodon, flying over towards the Candy Caves, trying to give this a little bit more of a better shout at exploration, fighting a few of the candy cane men and then a few of the gummy bears and the gumball launching creeper variants which lived in this area. Oh, that explodes. Okay, let's be careful about that. Is every block from this biome edible? That's amazing. 4 attack damage, 8 attack speed. How fast can this do damage? Oh, it only does 1 hit. I don't know how I didn't realize that a sharpened candy cane shiv would only be good for one stabbing, but there we were, clearing out the gummy bear that I was fighting with and realizing that I was actually over close to the copper cave village that I had seen some 30 days prior. That made me think that I was potentially in the right path for doubling back on myself. And while I'm having fun experimenting with the chocolate ice cream and fighting the candy cane demons that sound like horses, I am finding myself finding basic vanilla zombie spawners, but watching them kind of get obliterated by a peppermint unicorn. So that's interesting. The campsite that was right next to it was trapped, so everything exploded, and the golden apple from the chest there was pretty much the best thing that I found. I grabbed the copper TNT and other supplies from the wrecked campsite, throwing that all into my backpack and jumping back on my subpteranodon to continue exploring this biome. I was mainly heading out though and doing my exploration in the process of returning over towards the primordial area, finally fighting a caramel slime and picking that up, but having the worm jump up out of the ground and drive me off. Along the way back home, I stopped at every primordial hut that I saw, just trying to figure out if any of these were the ones that I had visited previously. I found a few with empty chests, which made me think I was at least potentially on the right path, but none that actually had all of the supplies that I had dropped off. So I've been here before, but it wasn't the place that I was explicitly looking for. I made my way back home, dropping off a whole bunch of supplies in all of the chests, making one for weapons, one for blocks, and one for food, even though the Venn diagram of all those candy items basically falls into both. The following morning though, I need to re-up on my food supplies. I only have about 3 baked potatoes left, so I'm planting all of the crops that I had been collecting, mainly the sugar cane, taking care of a few of the other crops, fighting down and killing a few more trilos just to get a couple more tails, cooking those up, and then heading out to go dinosaur hunting. Actually attacking one of the giant blue and purple creatures. Didn't do a ton of damage, so I was able to take it out pretty much solo, which got me a dino chop, which I was able to cook up into a whole bunch more dino nuggies. But before I can get into even better foods from Farmer's Delight, I need to find some clay, and oh, look at that, there's some clay right across the river. How convenient. So the following morning, I went out to go and grab the clay, having a goblin stop by, being able to throw a little bit of raw copper in their direction for a little bit of a return, heading across and just picking up a whole bunch of clay. I'm just mining clay. Oh God, it's a creep. No, I'm just mining clay. Everything's fine. But on my way back home, I took a slightly more right turn than I had done the previous route, ending up at yet another one of these prehistoric structures. And wouldn't you know it, it's been this close the whole time. Oh, oh, well, cool, we get some stuff. Okay, so there's everything that I had collected. I spent some time condensing a lot of it down into blocks and different forms that would fit into my backpack, throwing a lot of it just into here and running away from the Tremosaurus that seemed to be guarding this old structure. And it is laughable how close this actually is. I kept looking over here. I've passed this maybe a dozen times. That's hilarious. But with my pockets and my backpacks stuffed to the point of bursting, I double jumped and dashed my way back over towards my compound, starting to put everything down in different places, organize it, realizing I have already outgrown the few double chests that live in this home. Following morning, I took the cook pot that I had found, since I don't need to craft one up anymore, and needed to go get myself a magma block to be able to actually power it, using the power of time to roll myself back to be able to start that cooking. With that done, I jumped on my subpteranodon and headed over towards just past the Sculk area, fighting off a few vampires, the huntsman skeletons, and a couple zombies, dealing with a little bit of a Sculk growth problem down here, as I had set off the shriekers one too many times. But it's time for everybody's favorite joke. Yeah, that'll never get old. I spent a bit more time chopping down a whole bunch of obsidian, dealing with a bunch of vampires and other mobs and issues who were starting to really make the whole mining obsidian thing a problem. So I jumped back on my subpteranodon and flew my way back home, doing a little bit of farming and gardening and decorating on the upper layer, taking the 4 obsidian I had collected and making myself an enchanting table, but not really having a place to put it. The tower I built is a bit too small and I don't really have a good area for it, so I'm gonna go a little bit more outdoors, setting up a bit of an interior wall right here, and then crafting up a few jungle bookshelves with the little bit of jungle wood that I had. It's not enough to get me up to 30 on my enchant, so I had to disenchant some of the enchanted loot books that I had been collecting from all of these different treasure areas, and even with all of that, that got me up to 5 of my 15. So that's not everything quite yet. I spent a little bit of time with all of the farms cooking up a whole bunch of food. Considering I was out of food again, that seemed pretty well timed. Throwing down a few of the pottery shards to make a nice little decorated pot right here, and then taking a look and seeing what I can exactly do. I planted a lot of the ancient tree saplings, the puin. Puin? I think that's pronounced puin. If it's not pronounced puin, just let me know in the comments. I absolutely believe that you will. But I threw all of the lapis I had collected into a small barrel here by the enchanting area, realizing that I can do better than the ladder that I currently had to get to my second floor, crafting up one of those pulse flowers. I tried to plant it on the ground, but it turns out it can only be placed on Sculk. So I had to fly over with my Subterranodon back over towards the Sculk area, dealing with a few mobs in the way, and using the Silk Touch iron pickaxe that I had left inside that house to be able to pick up just a few Sculk blocks, and found some other cool things, but you can tell I play this game far too much. What? That can't be good to eat, right? There's gotta be some catch. I mean, I'm gonna, but there's gotta be a catch. 66? There's gotta be a catch. I'm waiting for the catch. I just suddenly poof into a warden. I don't know. That feels too good to be true in the worst possible way. With my Sculk collected and another food source potentially secured, I broke down the ladder and planted the pulse flower on the bottom floor, and it is just barely enough to be able to get me up to the second if I jump. Oh, is it just short? Oh no, you can make it. You can make it. That's so cool. I don't know if this is healthy or not. I'm gonna keep these as a last minute emergency, just in case. But with upgrades to my base done, I took a quick little nap, and the following morning focused on upgrading my armor. It's all kind of half damaged, but it's worth putting some enchants on it compared to nothing. And I'm gonna need that because I jumped on my dino and started heading out to the west, just trying to find what else ever I could go and interact with in the world. I found the very base of a structure that was almost completely solid in mossy and regular cobblestone. Having a few creepers try to blow up the bridge that I was using to make my way into the structure, and dealing with silverfish from the structure itself. Eventually, I was able to dig into a room somewhere, which was guarded by multiple alligators, which took multiple stacks of spears to be able to take them out, running around collecting a bunch of different treasures and redstone components from a bunch of the rooms here, and heading up the stairs to figure out that it kind of breaks the game. I don't think this is what was intended. Okay, well, if we ever need to get out of the world for some reason, cool. I think I broke it. How do I go back down? Okay, let's go back down. Which one of these? There's the downstairs. Realizing that I had somehow escaped the simulation, I made my way back down into the caves, figuring out that the creeper sounds that I was hearing was actually a creeper head on a note block, so the structures are using some of the new mechanics, which is quite fun. I headed into another room that was filled with a bunch of different bee-looking structures, getting a set of bunny hoppers from the chest here. These are huge. They make me completely immune to fall damage. In combination with my cloud in a bottle, I'm gonna be able to zip my way around here like I am a parkour champion. But these honey structures in the middle felt off, so I started dismantling them. I have the feeling that the structure is supposed to give you mining fatigue somehow, probably from the part of it that was sliced off when it was consumed by the void. So instead, I'm able to just somewhat disarm these traps and treasures and get all of the gold and honey hidden within. With all of that done, it was just a matter of mining my way out one of the walls, dealing with a few of the gigantic creeper Goliaths that are here, and then digging my way back up and into the structure, breaking my pickaxe, making a new one, and then heading out another one of the walls so I can make my way back over towards my subterranodon, having to do a little bit of ducking, dodging, and diving from the little creeper little things that were trying to blow me up before jumping on my ride and heading back towards home. The following morning, I realized that I'd kind of just hit capacity on a lot of my storage. I was overwhelming the whole 2 double chests that I was depending all of my stuff to potentially fit inside, so it was time to go over and use that secondary tower structure as what I had kind of originally intended it to be. A whole bunch of bulk storage of different items. I tried to separate things into stone and wood and redstone and keep a lot of the food materials, the things that would be essential for my long-term survival, keeping those in the main structure and just moving over the stuff that I'm only gonna need when I need it. And I know that might not make sense, but it does to me. And it was a pretty productive day. I just was able to get everything moved over, even though I really just am shoving a very claustrophobic room, doing a little bit of farming before ending the day, going into the meaning of life, where we start with a whole bunch of death. I made my way back up towards the house. Being able to double jump over my own fence is pretty awesome. I don't really need a gate while I'm thinking about it. Cooking all of the Trilotales and crafting up a lot more of those soups. Running over and feeding them to a few of my very large blue and purple friends to have them bash down trees to collect a whole bunch of wood and supplies for me when the whole party was kind of interrupted by a T-Rex spawning on my head. All right, message received. You enjoy, I'll stay out of your way. I got the hint, okay. I left, ran back towards my base, planting down a few of the plants that I had collected in the process and trying to organize all of my food, picking up all of the Trilotales that had been cooking while I was out and doing that, grabbing a whole bunch of vegetables, thinking that might make a bit of a balanced diet as long as I craft myself up some new armor so that I'll actually be able to survive long enough to use it. The next day, I decided to jump on my subterranodon and just fly out. I had brand new armor, so I needed to go get some levels so that I could actually get it enchanted and be as better protected as I was previously. Heading out of the prehistoric caves into the more normal and natural ones, heading past a few of the structures that I'd already cleared previously, and making my way towards what looked like a subterranean set of tunnels. But most of this area is, well, open air, so it was exposed and easy for me to jump down into. Wait, is this the stronghold? No, this is a mansion. So yes, this structure is actually an underground addition to woodland mansions that I would find up on the surface. And this actually worked pretty well because it used the same woodland mansion loot table, meaning I was able to get a couple things that I really can't find anywhere else. The bookcases was pretty nice. Being able to break those down to get some free books is something I'll definitely take. I need to improve my enchanting. The redstone and the wither roses were just really fun bonuses, but the most interesting thing was the fact that this also breaks the simulation. Okay, well, now I know that that's another way up. I continued looting through chests before finally finding my way towards an evoker, who I did my best to kill before they could summon Vexes, just not quite being able to actually successfully do that. I was fighting the Vexes through the tunnels, throwing spears at all of them, when they forced me into a room where there was actually a brewing stand in place with a couple different potions that I could use. I saved those off for later, running around to a few different storage rooms, fighting a few Vindicators, and then some other enchanting types that I didn't know what they were capable of. I don't even want to know what that guy was about to do. I found another one of those pretty quickly and was able to kill them before their spell completed, clearing my way through one of the ends of the hallways and jumping back on my subterranodon and starting to fly home. Just want to prove something. This is what this cave is most of the time, but those night vision goggles have come in absolutely clutch. Honestly, it's probably the only reason this video is going to be watchable. here's the little test for you all. I want you to leave a comment down in the description talking about how watchable this video was because of the night vision goggles. And while you're down there, go check and see if you're subscribed. You're probably about an hour into the video at this point. You really should check. You should check, because you might watch my stuff and you might not be subscribed. But on the way back home, I saw some slimes in the distance. The only problem was they weren't alone. I don't even know what that thing is. I can count like 6 different kinds of creepers surrounding that slime. But I really desperately wanted slime. It's an essential crafting ingredient to a few backpack upgrades that I'm gonna wanna get in the future. So I jumped down, killing one of those more Goliath creepers, and then taking out the slime itself, taking all my anger out on the geometry of it, and jumping on my Subpteranodon with slime in my pocket, flying over the Sculk and through the candy caverns back towards home. I took a quick little stop here, mining up a few of the peppermints so that I could just store them off, killing a few more of the caramel variant slimes to land myself a little bit of caramel and some sugar cane and candy cane and some glow sugar lights. I stopped over a campsite that I found here inside the more sweet caves, noticing and disarming the TNT trap this time, so I was able to safely open the chest, killing the gumball creepers to get a little bit of glass and gumballs before seeing that I was being chased by 4 vampires through a very, very sweet cavern, grabbing the anvil and just booking it, making my way towards a crashed ship that maybe everybody was just in a candy coma right here, fighting off a few of the mobs around here. And it wasn't even just the sugar mobs, some just vanilla bog standard zombies had made their way up the hill to try to give me trouble. And while I was in the process of trying to open up the chest and loot it, I got jumped. That was far too close, so I jumped back on my Subpteranodon and started flying home, having to take a rest on a couple different structures and being attacked by the candy cane creatures while I was letting my dinosaur rest its wings. I was able to eventually clear them all out, hovering as what I thought was a safe distance, watching the worm below. That worm honestly scares me. Whoa! Yep, that really weird leaving. Oh, that thing made a jump for me. I wasn't expecting that worm to have that much of a vertical, so we're gonna have to be even more careful flying through this area, and it's one of the main reasons I'm nervous to even set foot on those sugar-coated lands. It looks all nice and friendly. I figure that's probably the most dangerous biome of them all. But I made my way home, delooting and dropping everything off, going into day 45. We're approaching the midway point of this adventure, and we still have so much we need to do. Case in point, I collected a little bit of iron and all of the drops from the creepers that I had been fighting over in the candy caves, with a little bit of sugar and peppermint to make myself a shot gum. And this rivals the first time I ever used a potato cannon. Oh, that's so cool. We have a shotgun. I saved that off for right now, dealing with a Tremosaurus right on my fence, opting for more spears than shotgun right now, as the ammunition I had would be greatly limited. When I went to go collect the spears, I got bit through the wall, which is just unfair. And I decided, you know what? Let me just go teach the T-Rex a lesson. And I am not a smart man. I mean, that's not entirely fair. There's like 6 of you who do watch these videos for me to be smart. I just constantly disappoint you. Oh, that was stupid. Oh, that was potentially not super smart, but you know what? You don't watch this for me to be smart. You watch this for me to be entertaining. But since we are approaching the halfway point, I figure we should probably stop eating the starter food and come up with something a little bit more substantial. I went through the Alex's Cave mods to try to see if there's anything from the candy caves, as that seems the most edible, potentially. And there are a few options, but they don't seem to be great on saturation. So instead, I turned to all of the vegetables that I had been growing so far, going back into Farmer's Delight to see what some of my cooking options were. Most of them required overworld vanilla mob materials, but not all of them. Okay, I can find eggs. So since any old egg will work, I pulled my best Captain Planet villain and started flying around the area with a Silk Touch pickaxe, mining from nest to nest to nest, picking up all of the Subpteranodon eggs I could find. Those nests are normally nestled into the edge of pillars and pretty high up, so I have to use my Subpteranodon to fly around and then leverage the time stop totem to work my way back up and jump up onto land. Oh, that was almost really bad. In the moment, I forgot that I had the bunny slippers, which meant I was totally immune to fall damage in the first place, but I'm betting you probably did too, which is why that past clip was so exciting. But I made my way back home, and look, I'm not proud of this, but I'm gonna eat well. Some nice dino-flavored cabbage rolls. Technically, I think they're egg rolls, but
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Dad jokes aside, while everything went to cook, I took all of the books that I had gotten from the basement mansion area, combining it with a whole bunch of wood that I had had my dino friends collect for me to make all of the remaining bookcases I need to fully level up this enchanting table. And I could immediately get efficiency 4 on my pick if I just had a little bit more levels, but we'll settle for efficiency 2 for right now. With that all done, I got my food from the kitchen, checking out a few other options. Candied apples from Create are potentially really good, but the only way I can see to get apples right now is to kill goblins. That feels wrong. But the honey that they require is actually probably pretty easy to acquire. I can see massive geysers and stalactites and stalagmites of the honey just across the road. But that's not the first thing we're gonna go out and collect. I landed on one of the obsidian pillars right near the edge of the Sculk area, and now that I have efficiency on my pickaxe and can ruin Sierra's favorite joke, mined up a whole bunch of obsidian for myself going into the next day, which took quite a while to do. After that, I flew back home, making myself up some andesite alloy and stripping a few logs, creating some andesite casings. From there, I made a water wheel and then a large water wheel, a gear shaft, and this is the point of every video where I confuse and upset Beck by doing a whole bunch of create stuff. I made a large water wheel on the side of the base, trapping a lot of the water inside trapdoors to make it look integrated. Again, very Swiss Family Robinson kind of vibes from this, but I think it kind of works. Getting a little bit of power from there, I was able to put gears on, getting all of the different accelerations in place, and then thinking it doesn't really look good with the gears up there, so I should probably go get some kelp. On the way, I found a goblin, and oh, hello. Thank you. Now, I'm very sorry, but you drop apples. Look, I said I wasn't going to be proud of that. But I headed over towards the water, which I can run on, which is awesome, grabbing a little bit of kelp from the bed here and then swimming my way back home, harvesting all of the vegetables and then throwing the kelp in the smoker so I could get that dried out to be able to make myself some belts. While that worked, I made myself the hydraulic press to start a brand new YouTube channel and a depot for right underneath it, crafting up the belts and hooking everything up. It's not fast, but it is efficient. But I kind of want it to be fast too, so I went through and redid all of the gear interchanges, even going so far as moving the press over a little bit just so I could get it attached to a gear at a pretty decent speed. With that all done, I put down some iron ingots that were able to be bonked down into iron plates and started building up all of the obsidian that I collected recently, and I think you can see where this is going. With all the plates in my inventory and a few other items safely stashed in my backpack, I grabbed myself a few other blocks that I would need and went around harvesting food and taking a quick nap so I wouldn't have to deal with phantoms as I start considering my next big play. And I'm gonna try to do this slightly more proactively, using a lot of the Trilo tails that I had cooked up to tame myself a new Terra, throwing them on the ground and trying to push them in towards the portal where they just didn't go through. I thought, oh wait, I need to go through first probably to generate the nether on the other side, and I was correct, but it's always the same nether for me. Of course. Of course it is. But unfortunately, the nether wasn't generating, and a quick little bit of tech debugging was able to figure out why. Oh, this only is 4 gigs. Give me a second, I'll be right back. There we go. proper RAM now set up. With the world finally receiving the proper amount of power to generate itself, there's some lore hidden in there somewhere. I made my way out through the basalt deltas, being attacked by some cubes, some angry pigs with swords, and a big gray thing that was throwing its children at me. Minecraft is weird when you think about it. But the first thing that caught my attention was the bastion, which I'm not quite ready to jump on that, and a tower where a bunch of piglins were also collecting. I was able to build my way up on that, making my way up towards the roof and having to only clear out a few piglins and piglin brutes, which I could do so from above to sort of control the engagement, blocking off the stairs to downstairs and picking up a bunch of supplies from the chests. What even is... What? I genuinely don't know what to do with any of this. I started heading down the tower, accidentally punching a few people in the face, which angered all the piglins who were around here, and I started being chased away with the size of a crowd of somebody who's actually popular trying to walk around a TwitchCon. While that was happening, there was a ghast above me shooting fireballs down at me, exploding the ground around me, so I had to be extremely careful. Jumping up into the side of a nearby bastion and bridging around, trying to see what I could find, getting a rage glove, which makes me stronger the more I punch, and grabbing a single piece of nether wart from the very center of the structure. Oh my god, that's so close. Oh, I hate those things. I hate these things. I hate these things. I hate these things. Get away from me. With that awful jump scare of a mosquito between the eyes, I reevaluated all of the loot I had been collecting, throwing it off into a backpack and grabbing a little bit of soul sand so I could use that to grow future nether wart. There's also a little bit of a well right here, so I tried to clear out all of the lava, didn't really find anything underneath, doubling back towards the tower and finding way more soul sand and nether wart right here in the basement of it. The piglins were not taking kindly to the fact that I was running around and looting their home, so I had to do a whole bunch of fighting there, heading out into the lava pool, bridging towards what I can only describe as the entrance towards a under lava mine shaft. And this place was a spooky one. Oh, I hate this. I hate this so much. Now, these mine shafts are awesome. They're pretty enclosed, so you can only get attacked from different directions. The ghosts are a definite downside, true, but you can take out piglins who can really only charge at you from in front or behind, and they have blaze spawners around, so you can get blaze rods, and a room with nether wart in the middle, so you can get all of that as well. And then you can get attacked by ghosts, so win-lose kind of thing. Deadly ghostly pickaxe. What? But I found a pretty secluded blaze spawner amongst here, and the main thing I needed to do was actually expand the size of this area to create it into something that would be even remotely efficient. Starting to double the size of the tunnel, digging into the one next to it, and dealing with the fact that I'm being set on fire pretty consistently, and I do have a limited amount of food to be able to recover health. I did realize that the backpack that I was using for looting, that wasn't my main one, was not upgraded. So I did make myself a crafting table and put that through the iron, gold, and diamond upgrades, so I had multiple double-size rows to be able to just throw a bunch of loot into without having to think about it too much. Focusing on expanding out the blaze spawning area, having to deal with a big patch of gravel that was making that a problem, and then having everything go very wrong very quickly. Oh my goodness, there's so many. That's way too many. That got way out of hand way too quickly. Oh my goodness. I left that area heading back towards the central room and collecting the little bit of nether wart that I had missed, actually finding a separate blaze spawner, crafting up a few of the blaze burners with the iron plates I had brought along just for this occasion, so I could take a couple different blazes, kidnap them, and make them work for me forever. I really sound like a bad guy when I say stuff like that. I thought I was having a bit of a big brain moment, taking some of the blackstone to craft up a brewing stand before realizing I don't have water. That could probably be important. So I'm not going to be able to make myself fire resistant to be able to do this completely safely, so I just have to power my way through. Breaking another blaze spawner that I found, getting a few extra rods in the process, trying to see if there's any ancient debris embedded into the walls here that I could get some free netherite upgrades while I'm at it. And that wasn't really in the cards, but you know what was? Let's play everybody's favorite minigame. It's time for a Legundo to get lost in a structure and not know how he's supposed to get home. Okay, we can cut it with the spooky sounds now. That'd be great. Now the question is, how do I get out of here? So I was lost. I was very, very genuinely lost, running around these caves, doubling back and forward and through the tunnels, making my way towards the blaze spawner that I had almost gotten killed at, which had thankfully cleared out. So I was able to go through and actually secure that a little bit better, and then doubling back and forth through several tunnels, wasting the rest of the day before eventually, finally, making my way towards the staircase that would lead me up and out. It's not even the one that I came into, but it is right next to the existing exit. So I was able to parkour my way across, stab a few piglins, kill a few cubes, and make my way back through the portal, returning to the overworld so I could immediately take a full triple-sized backpack worth of loot and add it to my already problematic storage solution where these chests are gonna overflow. I was organizing stuff until about the midpoint of day 52, having to throw things in basically every chest that exists in this base before getting another visitor. Hello. I don't really have anything to use, so I'm very sorry, but I need to kill you for apples. Thanks. But by the time I had finished putting everything away, having to reconsider and redo part of the organization because there was too many different types of items, I made myself a few different bottles of water and set that up in one of the brewing stands to start brewing up some potions. Then realizing I should probably make a better area for this, going up to the second floor and making a nice little 2 brewing stand small potion, using the dark prismarine that I had gotten from the aquatic structure to get something that looks like a proper desk and doesn't exactly match everything else in this whole base. While the potions were brewing, I tried to figure out what those iron armor plates were for. Maybe they could be used to reinforce armor, at least not in an anvil, so I made a smithing table trying to see if they worked kind of like upgrade templates, but just adding onto the stats, but they don't work either. Then I realized that they are part of a multi-part create armor setup, where if you have multiple different interactions, you can make slightly better than diamond armor using the create mod. Maybe overkill, maybe not 100% useful. But I pushed the second subpteranodon that I had tamed out into the nether, heading through the portal right behind them and realizing that I'm going to be able to travel in style. I returned back to the overworld really quickly to pick up all of the fire res potions that I had left behind before starting to mine a tunnel and a slightly larger entrance area that I'd be able to actually fly out from where my portal is. By the time I mined it out, it was day 53, so I was able to finally fly out and enjoy the nether. Okay, enjoy might not be the best word, but explore, and explore efficiently. Heading out to a warped forest and then to a very toxic looking biome. Nuclear waste of the toxic... What? Staying out of that, just in case, I don't know, maybe I'll die of radiation poisoning. Hello, this is future editing Legundo. That would be prophetic. But I saw in the distance this really cool white kind of salt flats biome, and it's all made of quartz, and it's all filled with ghasts. That's a lot of ghasts. Oh no. Evasive maneuvers. That ghast sniped us. Flying away from the very active war zone, I landed on much more normal nether terrain, the roof of a nether fortress. Now, if you've seen my channel for a while, you know these better fortresses are ones that I really like and I love to explore. I also know a lot of the rooms that exist in the substructure that exists down below the fortress proper, which is the main area where you can find a whole bunch of item frames, loot, diamonds, supplies, and a few friends who are really ungrateful if you open their cages. That's not a way to say thank you. Absolutely ungrateful. I was grabbing all of the glowstone, all the item frames, all of the mushrooms from down here because you never know what could be useful. Having a nether goblin visit me, and they A, don't drop apples, and B, didn't have anything I could trade for. If only I had water bottles. Fighting a few more blazes going into the next day where I was able to disarm traps. Knowledge is power after all. Finding some really awesome loot in one of the barrels. Oh, that's awesome. 2 smithing templates is great. I have no shortage for diamonds in this cave-only world, but the fewer that I can spend, the better. And any sort of armor trims are great because fashion game is the end game. I got a pocket piston in one of the barrels, which will allow me to punch mobs further back if I could decommit to my pickaxe warmer or my claws. Picking up a few other scraps of gold and an extra pair of night vision goggles from one of the barrels here. But the loot is plentiful, and RNGesus was being kind. Yo! I will take that. That's another god apple. Another golden apple too. Another golden apple. Picking up all of the gold and some spare pieces of diamond armor that I could probably use for enchanting bait in the future, I cleared out a few more blazes and wither skeletons to take control of the main floor, using the create gear shafts to open up the gate, and then grabbing all of the create things because they're undoubtedly useful, clearing out a few of the wither skeletons in this fortress area and starting to fly home. On the way, I saw a bastion that was looking mighty tempting as it was a treasure variant, and the barrels at the very bottom of that structure on the right could provide a big come up. So I downed a whole lot of fire res, killed a slime that was glowing, which should have been a hint that this is not a normal bastion, and dug into the side of the wall, killing a few of the enemies right away, doing as much as I could to break the spawner as soon as possible, and throwing a whole bunch of gold on the ground into this random pipe that was moving through the bastion, thinking it's a really great place to contain all these piglins while they did their bartering, killing a few of the stragglers, picking up a netherite ingot, another upgrade, and a few more blocks of gold from the chests, and then continuously hearing this weird sound that I couldn't place. Ow! What was that? Get hit by Sentry's lightning attack. Okay, hold up. That's a netherite ingot, by the way. Ow! What was that? That's a lot. Ow. Okay, that's a problem. That's spicy. I don't think the bonk took that time. That was almost really, really bad. Okay. Okay. Oh, my pants broke. Good things we have backups. But we are out of food. With my exploration and near-death escapades in the pipeline underneath this reactor proving maybe not the smartest thing, I worked my way back up through the bastion, parkouring over towards the central bridge to pick up the final couple gold blocks and then pillaring up towards my subterranodon. Hello, perfect. Oh, and there's another fortress right there. That is such a cool dungeon. I saw another fortress off in the distance in the warped fortress area, but figured now might not be the time, flying back over towards my portal, leaving my subpteranodon here in the nether and portaling back towards home. It took a little while to organize and drop off all of the loot that I had collected from all around the nether into all of the chests that I had stored here, pressing everything down into ingot and then to block form so I could store a lot of it into the backpack. The main thing I was excited about was all the netherite upgrades that I had gotten, as well as the raw netherite itself, as well as a few of the enchanted books that I could use to upgrade my gear once I had got myself a few extra levels. Certain things like arrows and the plates and armors, they didn't all completely make sense, and I'm still overflowing even when it just comes to food. But the goblins are trying to help with that. Oh, hello. One sec, I'll trade with you in a second. But I definitely need to re-up and restock. I'd eaten all of my cabbage rolls, so I really only had a couple very vanilla things, and the goblin trader here was more than willing to help me get rid of the raw materials, but I'm gonna need to craft up some knife, harvest some vegetables, and do another round of cooking. But the chests inside the house are very much overflowing, so I instead moved the cookpot outside, taking the one tree that I had set up here and making myself a little outdoor campsite cooking space with some nice little bit of composting and different chests to store seeds, as well as the raw ingredients and fully prepared meals on the bottom level, so that I could set up a little bit of an overall workstation here, working underneath the glow of all of the amber and being inspired to create all sorts of dishes from all throughout history. And organizing that and getting it in place was most of day 57. Hey, they can't all be nail-biting near-death experiences. Sometimes you just need a lazy day. Harvesting your veggies, doing some gardening, and setting up a knife to be able to deal with everything you need to do in the future. Day 58, I took all of the raw pork chops that I had gotten from all of the nether materials and chopped that up into bacon, using a lot of the bone blocks and bone meal that I had collected to get myself a whole lot of cabbage and wheat, which I crafted into bread, and then converted all of that into a whole bunch of bacon sandwiches. That would be a pretty decent food source for a little while I investigated what all of that netherite could be used for. And it turns out I can actually upgrade past netherite to Sculk infested variants of all of that netherite. And if you're thinking this is multiple versions of the multiverse collapsing in on each other, you're definitely right. I also figured out what I could finally do with all of those iron plates and figured out all of the armors and what they could make, and then taking a look at some of the other chest plates that I could craft and finding a hazmat suit, which required these plastic plates, which required items from a whole other cave biome that I hadn't even seen yet. But the chest plate I have isn't worth upgrading at all. It's practically broken. So I made a new one and enchanted it and got lucky. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. You'll love to see it. I immediately took that pretty perfect version and the netherite ingot that I had gotten from inside the bastion to upgrade that to improve my kit just a little bit better, making myself a diamond pickaxe and then going gambling again, landing Silk Touch and Efficiency 4 right away. That's just great. Perfect. I took a quick nap instead of doing more gambling. That way the house couldn't win. Going into day 59, where we're just heading out to explore and see whatever we see. I like flying around without the night vision goggles on sometimes so that the whole world isn't fully blown out, and you can realize just how dangerous this space is. I forgot that this is actually dark. Like, I've had the night vision goggles for so long. I didn't even think about it. But that darkness illusion is ruined whenever you enter one of the Alex's caves, which naturally kind of light themselves up. I understand that the primordial ones have those light beams in the top. I don't fully understand how the candy caves are glowing. Maybe it's the rainbows? It's probably the rainbows. But I just kept heading north in a direction. I wanted to see what else I could potentially encounter, and I know some of the most interesting biomes that exist in this pack will naturally spawn separate from each other. Those values are tuned way down to make the caves more common in this world, but they're not guaranteed, so I'm gonna have to do some searching. I found another one of those fortress structures underneath. This one populated with a whole bunch more pillagers and different variations of them all as well. Thankfully, they all respond to a good old-fashioned bonking on the head pretty similarly, with stars flying around their face and me being able to crit them out before they can do too much damage to me. I raided and looted the bookstores here for all of the knowledge that they potentially had, grabbing their cauldrons and potions and supplies, getting jumped by a few vindicators here and there around the corners when I didn't see them, but primarily being able to time my encounters with a good old-fashioned bonk on the head and then slice, 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 slice with my sword. It wasn't always perfect. I did have a few close calls. Ow. Okay, game, you do not just put human voices whispering in your sound effects. Ah! That genuinely was like, scared me. Made me extremely uncomfortable. This is really good loot. But I made my way back up out of the tunnel, jumping on my Subpteranodon and just continuing along, finding a ruined ship right here, which had a couple coast armor trims inside, so that's actually kind of neat. But it was surrounded by creepers, which was a problem for trying to collect all of the really interesting soup and other things stored inside. Oh, we got a carrot. Nice. But I kept going, passing some basalt delta looking structures, some areas with amethyst crystals growing out of the ground, some massive ice stalactites in the distance. Even without the really themed caves, the world as a whole is pretty interesting to explore. Well, that's right, we came out looking for Sculk. And Sculk we found. Once we cleared out a few just random mobs that were in our way, I made my way into a massive area with glowy blue bioluminescence from edge to edge of the world, as far as I could see. What was that? I do not like that. I do not like that at all. I was mainly looking for just a place to land with the Subpteranodon, finding a small little bit of water and a little break in the Sculk surrounding it, but in looking underneath the surface, I realized what was hidden under there. No way. This is a flooded ancient city, and a really unique one at this point. The only problem I had was my Subpteranodon was really trying to drown itself, as it did not want to land on or near any of the Sculk blocks around here. So I had to try several times to find a place where I could park them safely, making my way back over towards the structure that I wanted to explore. It got dicey, and some of their hearts were definitely taken out from being drowned underwater before eventually I was able to find a spot, having to go a pretty significant distance away from the Sculk biome and dealing with a few creepers along the way. But eventually, I was able to make my way back over onto the lake and dive underneath. And this isn't just an ancient city that generated underwater by accident. This is a sunken version of the structure, filled with soul sand columns, kelp, prismarine everywhere, and a lot of loot that is both ancient city themed, as well as being somewhat aquatic. But one thing's consistent. This is some really good stuff. Yo. I'm using doors to avoid drowning so I could go from chest to chest. These spectral flares are interesting. I'm not sure what they're for, so I'm making sure to just grab everything. Finding a midnight robe, which would allow me to attack from being invisible. It's basically an upgraded version of the scarf that I had before. It's pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but it's not gonna help me when it comes to the dinosaurs who seem to hunt by scent. So I'll just kind of keep it in my back pocket for now. I had to be pretty careful to swim around here as I don't have respiration on my helmet, and I haven't found any artifacts that will allow me to breathe underwater, so I could potentially drown and not see all the cursed things that are here to be seen. This feels incorrect. I don't know what's about it. Something feels wrong, I'm not gonna lie. Waterlogged fire aside, I'm continuing to work my way through here, using some of the bubble columns to catch my breath and picking up a Swift Sneak 3 book. So I'm gonna be able to sneak around far more effectively, which will be useful for some of the stuff we're about to be doing. And let me tell you, setting off a shrieker, that's normally pretty scary. Setting off a shrieker underwater when you're drowning, that's next level. And it doesn't help the fact that since we're underwater and I can't hear any of the Sculk, I don't know how many strikes that is. A warden might have already spawned, but with me being underwater, I don't hear it lurking and waiting for me on the surface. But I'm continuing to work my way through, checking out for any loot chests and just finding Sculk and bones and threats. Not the dangerous come bite you threats, the dangerous you can't breathe kind of threats, which are sometimes sometimes just as bad or worse. My loot backpack was about half full as I surfaced, thinking I was in the lake and finding out I very much wasn't, so I'm going to have to try to double back, hitting up a few chests that I had missed along the way, considering to make myself a few air pockets with the doors, which are Minecraft's greatest diving equipment, and eventually surfacing after maybe my third or potentially my fourth strike, maybe summoning a warden. I'm not exactly sure. I ran along the water back towards my dinosaur and they were gone. Where is my dinosaur? They're over there. Oh, I just exited on the wrong place. Okay, we're fine. We're fine. False alarm, that's just another case of Legundo loses a digital item that is extremely critical to him, and it's right in front of his face. Man, how many times have we had that happen in these videos? It's gotta be at least like 7. But flying away, I passed by another portal, which got me a fire gauntlet, which would allow me to just punch things into flames, another golden apple, and a few pieces of treasure. I continued flying along this path, wanting to check out the ice caves, finding a very frozen over version of a mine shaft. And while that seems interesting, sliding off to my death, not so much. So I continued heading up until I got into a little bit of a prismarine area, checking my map and seeing that there were some slightly more radioactive areas just off to my right. This is the Toxic Caves, the third of the Alex Caves biomes that we've interacted with so far. It's an area filled with mutants, radfish, radiation, toxic sludge, and nuclear bombs. So pretty chill. Believe it or not, it actually is pretty chill. Flying into the world, it suddenly started to glow. And while the other biomes are automatically illuminated, this one feels just slightly more sinister. As I landed on top of a somewhat ruined structure, I wasn't sure what I could touch, what was safe, what wasn't. So I figured jump in from the roof, loot a few barrels, and then start picking up a couple other barrels. As soon as I did though, I got irradiated. Look at my heart. It has this like toxic symbol on it. And I'm not 100% sure what that does just yet. I can't be here. I cannot be here. I'm green. Oh, that's awesome. What does it even do? Please don't tell me like you die if you haven't done anything about it. Oh, I'm fine. Let's see what it looks like with these. So at the time, I'm still somewhat unsure what being irradiated means. It's probably nothing to worry about, but who knows? Maybe I'll get superpowers. I looked through JEI to figure out some of the items that are actually available or usable. And there you see it, a nuclear bomb. There is now no other way that I cannot finish the video with. I have to literally, quite literally, end with a bang. So I headed back into the Toxic Caves, being accosted by a very glowy cat who I didn't exactly know how to tame, so I just kind of left them to their own devices, picking up some sulfur crystals and other resources, and running my way out of there after being attacked by some giant thing with a brain and a barrel strapped to its back. I do not like the look of that thing at all. How do we get home? Oh my goodness, we are so far from home. So I looped around to another area where the Toxic Caves intersect with the more normal generation, picking up a little bit of sulfur, which is fine to hold, and then some uranium, which is slightly less safe to hold in your pocket, but thankfully putting it inside a backpack makes it perfectly safe to carry, so that's just totally fine. I dealt with a whole host of zombies and these rad roach looking things that were attacking, just constantly being a bit of a nuisance, and I figured out exactly what irradiated does. It turns your game basically into ultra hardcore, which if you're watching this far into the video, you should probably go check out UHC Generations. It's an amazing series that I'm working on that is vanilla, ultra hardcore Minecraft, and I've done some really cool things in it. I'm the 5th person to have that world. It will go to someone else when I die. Link is down in the description. There's your plug for now. But knowing that I need basically a couple different things to make the plastic sheeting that would allow me to make the rad suit to be able to be here safely, I kept flying around, just for now. I killed a fish with far too many eyes, pulled down a nuclear air horn, and then tried to figure out exactly how to get the bottles, thinking first it was the liquid, but it turned out it was the gas vents, actually. With 3 out of the 4 components, I hit up another structure, being jumped by a mimic, which was pretty easy to take out, and grabbing a last little bit of loot, basically filling my loot backpack, and that's a diamond tier 1, so I have quite a bit to work with right now. So I thought, let's head home, turning around and flying south, trying to chase Ho-Oh through the area, getting Songbird's blessing, and then being kind of hearing this weird noise, and eventually just soon enough figuring out what it was. Oh, I hate that. I stopped at a small clearing to break a few pots to get some golden apples and other loot, and then took off my goggles on the way home, just so you could appreciate how dark this cave system is normally whenever you're in one of the ones that's not glowing because of amber or rainbows or intense deadly radiation. The caves are pretty perilous, and the trip back home was a dark one until I made it into the candy caves, and the aforementioned rainbows were making my life very bright and pastel as I was killing quite a few of those gumball creepers, making my way over and towards the boundary and back towards home on the day of the greatest console ever made. While starting to throw all my nuclear supplies in a barrel on the back of one of my structures, I was accosted by another goblin friend, and they had some trading for me. Do I have an Unbreaking 3 book? No, get back here. We gotta go to the Nether. Yo, that's awesome. Now you live. Sparing my recent trade partner, I returned back home, made myself the perfect pair of pants with the ones that I had found in the ancient city, and then spent the entire day just organizing. Look, when you spend 5 days going out on an expedition, grabbing random stuff from all sorts of different biomes, mods, and many different structures, inventory management is going to be a problem. And I had to arrange and rearrange and move and remove a ton of stuff. And that all worked up a massive appetite, so I headed over towards the farm to harvest a whole bunch of crops, condense some of it down into its crate and or barrel forms, hashtag not sponsored, just trying to get everything organized and situated. It's right now around the 2/3 mark of every video that things go way off the rails when it comes to my organization, and I am very committed to not have that happen this time. And it turns out getting organized can actually make things a little bit easier to understand. Oh, that's what those do. So with everything put away, I did a little bit of testing just to see what those flares that I had gotten were actually useful for. So it's basically just like Arcane Eye, which as a D&D nerd, I really like that I have an item that basically just gives me that spell. But speaking about spells, we have to dismantle the enchanting setup for right now. I want to improve the overall structure of the building, and I figure a full and proper gatehouse structure to this place could make everything work a little bit better. So I started putting everything out as far as the overall corners and limestone structure of it, so I could just get an idea of how big I wanted this to be, that it felt like a good idea. I then took the little bit of mud and mud brick that I still had to just build out the walls, not compromising on the outer structure just yet, as I don't want to invite Tremorsauruses or raptors to come in and just eat me while I'm working on things. That did require moving and removing a lot of the enchanted books, so I could set up another bridge between the structures, as I want to be able to access the roof of the area, and that's where I'm going to move my enchanting space to. I had myself a quick little nap leading into day kill all the Jedi, where I pretended the Jedi were dinosaurs and slaughtered an entire tribe of raptors. Tribe? Pack. Herd? I'm not 100% sure. But the main thing I'm out here for right now is limestone. I bounced my way up towards one of the pillars where it seemed like it was pretty prevalent in multiple different layers, and just started mining away, trying to collect as much of it as I could, as I don't have an exact plan for what I want this gatehouse to look like, but I know it's gonna be pretty decently sized. I grabbed a little bit of mud that I saw surrounding one of the lakes, and then on the way back home, knowing that bacon sandwiches are useful and all, but I bet that you all are expecting me to eat primarily dino nuggies, I bashed a few dinos with the thick club to stun them, and was able to slay them pretty efficiently with just my diamond sword. It was mainly the Triceratops that I was doing that to. I don't know if they have a use, like the really tall ones that will get you wood by knocking down trees, and to be honest, I just killed them. So that was the main thing that they were useful to me for. But with the limestone back at home, I set some of it to smelt while using the remainder of the supplies to start working on building things out, making the gatehouse a little bit wider than I originally intended, but the added construction definitely brought some more attention my way. I had to readjust the interior walls as I made the overall footprint of the base a little bit bigger, but I'm having to be really careful. They can already provably bite me through a single block wide fence, so I have to stay kind of away and afar on top of what I'm working on so that I won't get turned into a Legundo nuggie myself. Okay, I get it. You're angry, boys. It's fine. And they didn't give up either. Even after I walked away from the wall and went in and started building things out, it wasn't working. So I decided, well, I read the wiki and figured out I can turn one of them into a pet, and my gatehouse can become a little bit more like a garage. So I crafted up a few serene salad, grabbed the thick club, and headed out to tame a T-Rex. Wait. This is the coolest thing of all time. Good boy. Good boy. I'm gonna give you all the, yep. I have a pet T-Rex. I have a pet T-Rex. Your name is Chompers. You're my favorite new pet. With the Tremorsaurus tamed, I decided to go with the idea of making this more of a garage than a gatehouse, having a much more larger open door and moss along the floor, with some of the areas of the wall looking still under construction with a sort of wooden rebar with all the limestone on both sides. I sealed up the floor with just slabs, and when the second Tremorsaurus came in to give me trouble, I bonked them with the thick club and started going in for swings, figuring out about the timing and baiting the roar to attack me so I could knock them out and crit them out before they even got in a single bite. Yes, I'm king of this jungle now. With that done, I worked on some of the general details of the overall structure. It's gonna need a lot more work to make this actually look good, and moved my tamed Tremorsaurus inside, parking them down and making a small little platform with wooden slabs around it for an interior door that is somewhat small, but very human and less dinosaur sized. I did a little bit of pathing, taking some of the sandstone and other blocks that I had collected before heading back over towards the farm to collect all of the crops as they've been growing passively as I was working, throwing down some coarse dirt to just make the interior of this space look a little bit more lived in, and then throwing on some wooden details surrounding the entrance door to make it a little bit more reinforced, and some of the really ancient logs and torches on the outside to really sell the very, let's face it, Jurassic Park looking vibe of the building. But I was out of Trilo tails, and it turns out they're really, really useful. So I headed down to the lake to do more slaughtering, grabbing myself only about 4. I'm not gonna need a lot of them right now for what I want to do next, but I am gonna need a few of them. I took the cooked dino chop to get a whole bunch of dino nuggies, cooking up the tails while taking some of the different plants from the prehistoric area and converting them into thatch blocks. This is what we're gonna use for the roof of the space, and it's gonna let us do something really cool. Once the Trilo tails were done cooking, I needed to make myself some primordial soup, which required 2 for each, and I was able to grab a little bit of sugarcane and shears, heading out because I'm gonna need a whole bunch more ferns and plants to be able to make more thatch blocks so I could get that roof done. And without a silk touch hoe, shears are the way to go. And for wood, those stews will help my friends here bash down some trees so I can collect resources multiple ways at a time. Day 60 in ice was just collecting wood and working with my friends to get everything, doing a very nice shearing of all of the grass here, trimming and cleaning everything up so I had a nice clean canvas to do a whole lot of work with. Once I had all the resources, I returned back home and started laying down the logs for the outer areas and the posts that I'm gonna balance the roof off of. I'm doing the same slanted design everywhere, so it has to be uneven, but in a manicured sort of intentional way. I took a quick little nap going into day 70, and we're finally hitting the passing grade level when it comes to the days here. I upgraded a second backpack to gold level. I couldn't do diamond as I didn't have enough raw diamonds to actually do that, but that did remind remind me to look into a few of the upgrades that I could make. I made a few of the upgrade blanks and then made myself a stacking upgrade with a lot of iron and a lot of gold. This will allow me to put up to 256 items in each individual slot, and that's gonna be really good. My sword was about to break though, so I crafted myself up a spare, and we're gonna head over towards the Nether. I was immediately attacked by parents who really should not have kids if they're just gonna be throwing them at people, taking on a few piglins and then jumping in towards the bastion, then kind of doubling back and realizing, wait, we have piglins at home. So I could just throw gold at them here, trapping them inside these little stalls inside the basalt walls to do a bit of bartering. Only 2 piglins though, while effective, isn't really giving me the rates that I'm looking for. So I decided to head over towards the other bastion that I had here, trying to kill a few of the piglin brutes before my sword broke, relying on jumping off of the building, forgetting that I was immune to fall damage, so I had nothing to worry about there.
Oh my goodness, those rabbit boots just saved me so much.
Climbing my way back up in the most inefficient bridging pattern I have ever seen. Once the top was secure though, I grabbed a few stacks of gold ingots and just pitched them down into one of the areas so all of the normal piglins could barter. Unfortunately, there was another brute there, and killing them upset everybody else, so they didn't want a capitalism with me. How inconsiderate. But after a few minutes, they all kind of forgot, so I just kept throwing money at them and pilfered all of their natural goods from the chests while waiting for the bartering to complete. While that was running, I was bouncing around to the other areas of the top of the bastion ramparts, just picking up some other supplies and useful things, grabbing a few rows worth of loot, and then heading back down towards the surface, getting jump scared by another Mosco. Remember, these aren't mosquitoes. Ito means tiny, which latched onto my face and sucked a little bit of blood out of one of my eyeballs. That is an awful image. I apologize for saying it. But with all the bartering done and a bunch of supplies gathered, we're in search of a bit more netherite. I figured bastions is probably the best place to look, and an ancient debris in one of the chests definitely made me think I was on the right track. Throwing all of that into the backpack and then heading down into the lower areas, having to kill a few brutes along the way, but doing pretty good at that, accidentally clipping the lava occasionally while double jumping from structure to structure. The small little bastion outpost didn't have any ancient debris, but it had a few more relics and some other affixed diamond tools, which are definitely interesting. Heading over towards the fortress because, and I've heard this every time I've ever used this mod, this fortress has ancient debris inside. Okay, I've been told that there's ancient debris in this fountain right here, right in front of this wither statue every single time. I get comments on every single video. So I grabbed a few stacks of blackstone and started working my way down and down and down and down. I was already 2 stacks of blackstone deep in blocking all of the lava, really hoping there was some kind of lava sponge block that I could potentially find amongst the mods. Nope. There wasn't. I accidentally set myself on fire several times, and I just got fed up.
Oh, I almost melted my backpack. Okay, that's a chisel brick. Maybe that means something. No, it does not. I'm starting to think. Oh my god. Okay, you know what? We got any 3-minute fire resistors? All of that for one. Look, I'm glad it's there. I don't have to ban anyone, but just one piece? Look how far down we had to go. I can't even, oh no, I can just barely double jump out. That is such a waste. With that absolute waste of a day behind me, I jumped into some lava, making sure to down a little bit of fire res so it would be an early end to this video, swimming my way over towards another bastion structure, or at least what I thought was a bastion structure, instead making my way into a nether reactor. And it's not that kind of nether reactor, it's a giant nuclear nether reactor, which is an interesting choice. There's a
radiation director stuck on the stairs who I think their AI pathfinding just couldn't head towards me. Good thing it was a wither skeleton with far too many totems in one of their hands. But the barrels behind the control panels had a few different things here for me, including a hazmat suit, just not the one from Alex's caves, so I don't think it actually works for me. I broke my way into a structure with a sign that I didn't bother to read, thinking there's probably some treasure in here, and I got a piece of ancient debris far easier than I did in that fountain. I am still not going to forgive some of you about that. But with the control room looted, I headed up into the silo itself, and this is something that I've seen before. That ghast in the middle, it's practically invulnerable. It has a stack of hundreds of totems in its offhand, even though you can't see it because ghasts don't have arms. So I worked my way through several different areas, picking up a lodestone, some fortune picks, a bunch of stained glass, and slime, which is really good because I had very little slime at the moment. Jumping my way up the top of the silo to get the barrel at the very top, picking up a really cool shield.
Ooh, every type of loot in the nether reactor. 20 seconds. Oh, that was spicy. Just as the fire res goes out. Ooh. Do I have another? I don't think I do. No, I do not. So that's a bit of a problem.
So with not enough supplies to travel my way back through the nether, considering I swam here through the lava, I decided to head off to a little alcove, make myself a nether portal, and get back to the overworld so I could brew up some supplies for the return trip. But my game had a different idea.
Game, please. Oh boy. Well, this is concerning. Basically, it's spawn. I hadn't even planned for that. I'm almost at 0-0. Might have wondered how I ended up in this situation. I can't even see myself right now. I'm not real. Yep, it's a new day, all right. That means chunks are potentially ticking. Let's try restarting. Let's make it back up in case something glitches. Please work. Please work. What? Oh my. I've never had this happen before, but this is so cool. Okay, so let me explain what just happened. First, let's turn our render distance up so we can see everything. Okay, I know about this glitch. I've never seen it happen to me before. Basically, the portal messed up. So the portal didn't load the chunks in the overworld, but it knew that it changed my coordinates to 8-8, which is where we are in the nether. Oh, that is so cool. Also, there's a fortress right there. That's kind of bonkers. So we were all the way over here, right? So somewhere over here, like here-ish, is a portal. But the game defaulted our location back towards basically 0-0 in the nether. That is very cool. That also means that we can probably get towards home. Do I have, yeah, I don't have, do I have obsidian in here? Can I make another portal? I would love to see where it puts me. I really hope we're not stuck in the nether now. It's birthday cake. You know what? This is interesting. Let's roll with it. You know, you can't write this stuff. You can't make this stuff up. I love this. That is so cool.
Minecraft is such an interesting game. Even when it explodes, we come out with something kind of cool to look at. All just a fun part of the story, as is this multi-day adventure of walking my way back home.
Streets are playing with my mind. I'm losing everything in sight. Time stands still, we go blind. I'm losing
It is very cool to be able to just run on the water. Yes, fights. Okay. I'm leaving. Base, sweet base. Oh my goodness. What an adventure.
With mileage on my boots that would make an ultra marathoner blush, I had to spend quite a bit of time dropping off everything. Because remember, the last time I was here was before the Nether, so all of the loot from the reactor, from the fortresses, from every structure that I touched along the way was all just sitting in my backpack. It took the remainder of the day of 76 to get everything organized, finishing off with smelting up just enough ancient debris to get myself one more netherite ingot. Combining that with the raw diamonds just as it rolled over to day 77, I was able to make myself another netherite upgrade template, which I then looked into investigating to make it the Sculk version, which somehow is cheaper to craft, as you can just take a bunch of Sculk and a single piece of deep slate to duplicate it instead of diamonds. With all of that done, I upgraded the perfect pants to netherite, threw on my chest plate, and flew over towards the Sculk area, killing a few zombies that were around here, one of those little baby wardens that I'm still not sure how hard they hit, and I am not willing to try, using my Silk Touch pickaxe to pick up a little bit of deep slate and the Sculk necessary to duplicate the Sculkified upgrade template, upgrading both my chest plate and my pants, and then putting them on.
I look menacing. I'm not sure I want to. Oh, do I want to put these on? Is there any other leggings that look really cool? There's the hazmat suit, which I still don't know if it's good or not. What's the worst that can happen? Let's make it interesting, don't you think?
With a phrase out of my mouth that would totally not backfire in the very near future, I turned my attention back towards the gatehouse structure, putting down a little bit more of the limestone to fill out all of the walls, and then working on some of the transition steps between the different pathways and interior areas of the overall base that I've made. I threw down torches, not that I need them, mainly for aesthetics, making a whole bunch more slabs to be able to encapsulate the roof, and then throwing down some wooden trapdoors and detailing around all of the different structures. I used what little thatch block I had to kind of plan out the overall layout of the roof, going with the same slanted design 4 blocks at a time, so it wasn't as steep, but it looked kind of nice. The only problem is these thatch blocks are really expensive and annoying to craft. So I headed out the following morning to grab a whole bunch of jungle leaves, and then getting a whole bunch of ferns and other items for the remaining durability of the shears, working until they broke, and a goblin caught me in the process of looting a few thatch blocks from a previously looted subpteranodon nest.
Hello, friend. I don't think I have anything for you. Oh, I have some gold. Thanks.
I started putting all of the blocks in place for the leaves, and the ladybugs were getting in my way, so I spent a little bit of time slaughtering them, forgetting that they sound the call to arms or light the banners to let every ladybug in the area know to be pissed off at me. Working on as much of the ceiling as I could manage before I was once again out of supplies, jumping my way back down towards the farms to just do a little bit of harvesting, making a new set of jungle bookshelves and starting to put them into place right on top of the garage area so I could once again do enchanting. So I made myself an anvil and a few other useful supplies, crafting up a spare diamond pickaxe, and then looking at the different books that I have here to see what exactly I could put onto things. Things like looting 3, unbreaking 3 are very clear shoe-ins to go on a good pair of tools, making myself just a fortune 3 pickaxe for now, right as it rolled over to day 79, as I wanted to convert all of the diamond and lapis ore that I had been collecting for myself into the maximum amount of supplies I could. I then took the Silk Touch and Unbreaking 4 pickaxes that I had made for myself and combined them, as that would be basically my everyday carry. I looked at enchanting the diamond sword that I had, but nothing really stood out, and I'm pretty low on levels, so I used a few bottles just to get myself sharpness 2. It's not great, but it's something, and I want to make my weapons more effective. I took Unbreaking and Looting, combining those books together just to get a little bit more oomph from my sword from everything that I kill, but it turns out I was 1 level short, so that's gonna have to happen at a later date. I invested a few levels into a random diamond hoe to reroll enchants, getting Dazing Sweep on the club, and that's interesting. So I already need to go back to the toxic caves for the components I need for the finale of the video. So I figured, let's do some math. I did the quick little bit of calculation of what it would take to get towards the toxic caves in the Nether. Heading over to Hell, figuring out where I needed to plop that portal down, and jumping on my Subterranodon to fly over towards it. That allowed me to cover ground extremely fast. The only problem was, it was in the quartz area that is just filled with ghasts, and I made some severe miscalculations.
No, dang it. That's not what I wanted to happen.
Being surrounded by far too many ghasts and far too many skeletons and kind of getting overwhelmed, I focused on making my way towards one of the walls, just blocking it off with quartz blocks to kill line of sight from any mobs that might be hostile to me, and starting to make another nether portal in the wall. And you know how I said nothing could go wrong? I'm just gonna let my adventure through all 5 stages of grief play out for you all in real time. Enjoy.
Okay, this should hopefully work. Game, please. This has 20 gigs of memory. Okay, please be okay. Game, please be okay. Please don't send me to a random spot again. That'd be wonderful. Yes, let's recover that so we have the Terra Death. Ugh. Well, looks like we're gonna go attack this thing. This is unnecessarily explosive.
Having made my adventure across basically a minefield, I made my way in towards the quartz cathedral structure, hearing some very telltale from inside. And it was here that I found out what my shield does. Hitting it makes me just spew out radiation, which poisons all enemies in the area and makes it really easy to clean up a whole bunch of kills. That is, as long as my enemies stay still. Thankfully, the Vindicators in this area primarily work with sword and board instead of axes, so they're not disabling my shield, so I can block all of the projectiles and do everything I can to poison all of the enemies around here. The mining fatigue is a problem, and I didn't really realize it when I first found it. I was worried why my sword was swinging so slow. Then it clicked.
Oh. Well, that's why everything's felt weird.
So I'm not gonna be able to modify the area, and I have to just take this really carefully, really cautiously. But with a broken helmet, I'm taking far more damage from each individual projectile hit. Having full armor is essential for it to be maximally efficient. Even just one missing piece makes all the calculations work against you, and you have to play far more defensively and be extremely careful, watching everything. Oh great, my shield just broke. Now down 2 pieces of armor and surrounded by Vex in a structure surrounded by ghasts, which is also filled with pillagers. I was actually in a bit of a bad spot here. This was not something I originally intended to deal with in this 100 days, but we're working with the hand we're dealt. Thankfully, the dazing swing on the club is going hard, allowing me to stun lock certain enemies to prevent them from being able to just rush me, and kind of bottlenecking them on the stairs, controlling fatal funnels and allowing me to work from floor to floor, sweeping and clearing each room that I can take out primary threats and then look around to see what else I have to worry about. There's a bunch of loot in here that I'm definitely grabbing. A bunch of emeralds, gold, things that would be useful in crafting armor. If only I could make myself a crafting table. And now I feel all of your pain from the things that I put into extraction. There's Vex spawners.
Oh, that's a Vex spawner. That's just mean. E. Take book. E.
With the mysteries of E uncovered to me, I headed back up the towers, thinking there has to be some way to disable the mining fatigue in this area so I can actually break the spawners and secure this structure. It just has to be a thing, right? So I made it up to the area where the bell had fallen, killing the evoker that was here, so I don't have that to worry about, and working through the parkour. The double jump and jump boost that I have in my rapid boots makes that a lot easier, but there's nothing at the top to reward me. So I headed down and back up the other side of the structure, heading the front 2 towers that directly flank the entrance. There's a couple Vindicators here. There's a couple enemies with swords, those stuck on the bridges. A couple more Vex spawners because whoever built this structure hates people, but nothing to disable the mining fatigue. So I bounced around on the roof a little bit, just trying to collect my thoughts, making my way back down inside, having a few pillagers having respawned, thinking for a brief version, maybe I need to light all of the braziers like an old school Zelda dungeon, but that didn't do anything. And after trying to break a few blocks, mine some of the gold, and getting nowhere, I found a staircase that leads down, following a whole bunch more pillager noises to kind of hone me in and clue me in that there was more down here. There's a lot of doors to deal with, a lot of different rooms, many of them looking like they are thoroughly trapped, and a few more kind of naturally equipped pillagers. And, of course, chickens in a box, as you do. But the main feature of the basement down here is a Ravager, which is guarding a nether portal. I'm able to disable the Ravager by just clocking it over the head and critting it out, but the nether portal is so reassuring, as that is how I ended up stuck here in the first place. But before going through, I wanted to try to secure this area, make this a proper safe beachhead for myself. I found some rage gloves that would allow me to, with each swing of my sword and each hit, generally ramp my damage up as I did more damage. So you bet your butt I equipped that right away. We can deal with getting some raw ores here and there. I continued looting my way through all of the barrels, slaying anyone who I saw, and getting knocked down to under half health pretty frequently with all of the Vex. At the very basement level, it looked like there was a potential dungeon or puzzle to potentially unlock things here, but the main thing I did was steal stuff out of the flower pots, getting myself a single piece of bamboo, which makes for infinite bamboo. I did make a mistake blocking up this tunnel that had a lot of lava running out of it, forgetting that I had mining fatigue and therefore wouldn't be able to make my way back into the tunnel. So I had to waste an ender pearl throwing it there, only to realize that it was the center fountain that I had already passed several times.
Oh, what a tease. All right, I've had enough of this.
And after going through the portal and watching whatever the hell that thing is go through the other direction, I finally checked my map.
Oh, I way overswung it. Oh no.
Granted, this isn't the portal that I intended to go to, so it's not like I had done my math wrong. Instead, I had been forced several hundred blocks extra in the nether, which is 1,000 plus in the overworld. With the location marked, I just tried to get somewhere safe. Standing on water seemed like a safe bit for a bit, till I was able to get my bearings and just bounce around the Sculk area, accidentally setting off multiple shriekers in the process, but we're not going to talk about that. The creepers are the thing I'm primarily worried about. I made my way to the top of one of these little obsidian spires, mining up and then starting to mine down when the phantom spawned and started giving me a lot of grief by knocking me off of the tower down into a ton of mobs. So I abandoned that area, breaking a whole bunch of pots to get a bunch of loot, and then having one of the little creeper things trigger my sleep paralysis demon.
Oh no. Oh no 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 no. Oh, plasmatic Sculk. That was stupid.
I did a little bit more mining around the Sculk area, just trying to get resources, killing a few other mobs, having to double back, finding a few more obsidian pillars, and more things I'm gonna have to talk to my therapist about, before figuring maybe it just makes sense to just head south instead of trying to make another portal. But then I'm gonna have a really long walk back towards home, and that's potentially gonna be 2 walking montages back to back, which isn't gonna be great. I made my way into a copper village, which didn't seem to have any villagers around, so it was definitely abandoned, heading back over into the Sculk area and decided to just cut my losses and go back through the portal towards the fortress. Except a few creepers rushed me, so I had to kind of abort on that for a few seconds and then had to go through anyway. That was absolutely uncalled for. But now that I had enough obsidian from all of my mining, I could go back to where I'd originally done the math to respawn into and use that. So I made my way and navigated back out through all of the basement levels, finding my way across a major central hallway into what can only be really described as a prison block. There was a bunch of guards that I did a completely stealth takedown of, big stick hit and then stab with sword, making my way towards one of the grates, which is around the base of the structure, and just kind of bypassing mining fatigue with explosives. After that, I ran my way back over the salt flats, dodging an, let's be honest, overwhelming amount of gassed fireballs, making it back over towards where I had put the portal, and finally actually getting it to safely spawn. That was a fun 6-day distraction to save my own life, but now that I'm in the toxic caves, I could run around trying to get the supplies that I came here for. I broke down a lot of radioactive barrels, being attacked by a mimic in the one biome that it actually makes sense for it to be there, and had my first interaction with a nuclear creeper. And I can't. Oh my God. Run, run, run. Now realizing that the blast is slightly more manageable, I continued fighting a whole bunch of mobs around here, using the big club to be able to take out the giant radioactive mutants so that their tongue attack couldn't hit me from range. The fact that I'm not regenerating health at all in here is a little scary. Regular UHC, I can do. UHC with giant mutant radioactive monsters with brains for half of their head? That feels just slightly excessive. But it turns out if you have higher stacks of it, it's not only no natural regen, it's no regen at all. So I had to head out of the toxic cave area, camping out over in the frosted caves until I had waited long enough for my health to regenerate. I'm still getting hassled by phantoms because I haven't slept in basically a week in Minecraft, which is kind of how it works in real life too. But right near the edge of the border, a single nuclear creeper had wandered out, and I was able to stick them and then stab them until they were dead, getting genuinely all of the fissile cores I needed. With my backpack full of all the radioactive material a boy could ever dream of, I made my way back in and through the toxic cave, having to clear out a whole bunch of monsters in my wake, but nothing that was overwhelming now that I kind of understand the attack patterns of each of them. Once back in the nether, I had to clear out a few stragglers at my portal and then run through the salt flats, dodging gassed fireballs and parkouring my way over the lava, heading back towards home. It is slower on foot, but still manageable from this location, although we're definitely gonna need to get another subterranodon to throw back into hell. But for now, I plopped the backpack down and started dropping materials off, all of the regular non-nuclear fission powered blocks into other chests and organizing out all of the loot, having to move the labels and put down additional chests in this storage area just so I can kind of hold on to everything. I am overwhelmed with the amount of toys I have to play with. All of the radioactive materials, that goes into a barrel in the back. I'm not putting that next to my food. I figure that's not safe. But as long as we're irradiated, might as well just kind of go with it, right? I plopped all the food down in all of the storage chests there, threw the last little bit of treasure into the center, and made myself a crafting upgrade for my backpack so I could craft on the go. With that done, I compressed a lot of my items that I had collected from all of my treasure hoarding, basically exclusively from the Pillager Cathedral, throwing that into the backpack in block form, and then mining up a bunch of uranium right next to my enchanting area, and putting a few of the slightly grosser looking blocks down around the barrels to make it fit the part. After that, it's crafting up the fissile cores and the fusion rods, which would allow me to make some really powerful weapons. Oh, that's too much power. I have way too much power. But it's not just kind of the wide, mutually assured destruction. There's also the ability to make very targeted, very precise, very kill this one person in particular type of destruction. So I was able to craft myself up a ray gun, and the dichotomy of my weapons and where I'm standing is not lost on me. This is so cool. Hold on, where's a raptor? I need to try this on a raptor. Oh my god. This is potentially dumb. I can just shoot laser beams now. I got a big stick and a laser pistol. This mod is amazing. Now, here's where we have a problem. If you follow me on Blue Sky, you would have seen this post where I figured out I had done something wrong. The way all of these mods interact, a critical structure for what I wanted to do for endgame just didn't generate. And we needed to do a lot of wizardry to figure it out. I was able eventually to figure it out, and it is a little bit of behind the scenes that I normally wouldn't talk about, but it did require running a few commands and getting a few things changed mid playthrough to get this all working. And I like letting you all know how the sausage is made when it comes to these videos. So I had the team place down a few structures, which we will go to explore in just a little bit and return back to the world. So we have a lot to do. This enemy is going to be the hardest thing that I had faced yet, so we need to make sure we're prepared. So as the me in voiceover just explained, we have a lot of work to do. I pulled the book out of the enchanting table and just started to look into how I could commit my levels into making my armor better. First things first was probably getting unbreaking on both the helmet and the boots, considering the fact that they had just broken, you know? Trying to put that Unbreaking 3 book on the ray gun so it would last longer, but unfortunately it is unenchantable. With myself at least slightly more protected, I jumped on my Subterranodon, headed over towards one of the stone pillars, mined up a few blocks of dirt from the top of it, and then started mining out the amber cluster right here on the roof, getting a few amber curiosities by dropping down to the ground. No. Welp. With what I needed done, I returned home, crafted up a few sets of shears, and then headed back out, mainly just to grab ferns and other plants, allowing me to craft up a whole host of thatch blocks. And I did that for the remainder of the day, really, because we're not just worried about the fight, we want this base to look good so you all can enjoy it when you have the world download. But in going out and exploring and trying to get materials, I finally found the thing that had been put there for me to find. Oh... there it is. Okay. So that's where they put it. We can do something really cool with that, which we will get to do in just a little bit. On the way back home, I saw another subpteranodon nest, which I looted for all of the eggs and the thatch blocks, both of which are extremely useful to me right now, parking my existing ride there and finally finishing the overall structure of the roof. Having a few eggs on board, I can do some of the farmer's delight cooking, so I harvested up a bunch of vegetables and started looking into what I could craft with them, finding a few options, but most of them mainly requiring meat. Once I heard the screech of phantoms, I was reminded, oh yeah, I haven't slept in basically 10 Minecraft days. So I took a quick little nap and the following morning looked into what I could cook with what I had in hand. And okay, I know I am sit here in prehistoric times and we're just fighting dinosaurs, but the recipes I have is the recipes I have. In one video, I've gone from eating dino nuggies to vegan burritos. Don't say I'm not a man with range. I can prove you wrong.
I can't believe I'm making vegan food. This honestly kind of feels wrong, I'm not gonna lie.
But I headed out in search for some fiddleheads. It's one of the essential ingredients in serene salad, which I can use to do some interesting things in taming a few more dino friends. On the way around, I passed by that Sculk tomb that almost ate me back on day 5 and decided to break down all the Sculk on the roof of it to get myself back up over level 30 to do another round of enchanting on my gear. Once I returned home, I crafted up a full inventory rows worth of salad and popped down a chest with some dino nuggies inside. This is going to be pretty essential for what I want to do. The only problem is the Tremorsaurus, which is guarding that chest, who I decided to dispatch with a ray gun. And one note, Mr. Alex person, if you kill something with radiation, the food should probably be dropped cooked. That's all I'm saying. It's basically microwaving at that point, right? But I marked the chest with some torches and then headed out to watch from on top of my fence, waiting to see when one of the raptors is going to take the bait. I heard the telltale call of a zombie piglin behind me, who I quickly dispatched, doing a bit of crafting and cooking to make a second chest with a second stack of dino nuggies from the Tremorsaurus that I had just killed. And now it's a waiting game.
Come on. Come on. Yes. Yes. Perfect. Sit. I can just pick them up. Come on, go into the chest. Come on. Yep. There you go. There's another one. Oh, did they not take it? Come on. There you go. Perfect. I'm making an army. Well, a gang. I only have 4. Last time I had 4 roos and I called it an army and it went horribly. So this is a crew.
That's right, we're making ourselves an army of raptors under our own control. It's starting small, but we'll work our way towards it. With the crew secured, I did a bit of enchanting, nailing Feather Falling 4 and Prot 3 on my boots, so that's pretty great. But I was a few levels short for Protection 3 on the helmet, so I decided to fly my way over to the Sculk segment to just mine up a whole bunch of the Sculk blocks around here as the quickest way I can get myself back up above level 30. And it turns out, even this far in, there's a few more surprises in the Sculk area waiting for me.
What the? What was that?
Dealing with a few more sensors with legs, I was able to get myself back up to the requisite level to get Protection 3 with a bonus bit of Aqua Affinity on my helmet, and I was then able to combine another Prot 3 book to up that all the way to Prot 4. Doing the same for the boots means I am maximally protected without another run for netherite, but I don't think I'm going to be going back to the nether at this point. It is not a friendly place, and it has not been going well. But one thing I do want is another Tremorsaurus. I want to have a couple because I want to be able to make a Tremorsaurus egg. So I headed over towards the spawner and started going through the taming process, bonking them over the head, feeding them a serene salad, and then occasionally using my time turner to roll back after I had been eaten so that I go ahead and become uneaten. It's funny how it works like that. Once I threw in enough salad and I had tamed this Tremorsaurus, I rode them all the way back home. Then going through the process of breeding all of my dinosaurs together. And they don't immediately pop out babies. No, they lay eggs, which which need time to incubate on top of thatch fern blocks for them to be able to grow. I probably should have started this like 30 days ago to be able to have a large enough army to be able to take on this enemy, but I usually get distracted in these videos, and if I planned too much ahead, y'all would know something was up. I do need a whole bunch of food though, so I went ahead and killed a single dinosaur, getting 6 dino chops with looting. That is absurd. Once back home, I took the cooked dino chops to get the Tremorsauruses to mate, getting a single egg of their type planted down as well, and then heading in towards home, trying to do a little bit of potion brewing to prepare myself for the battle ahead. I'm mainly making regeneration, a few strength potions, but fire res is one of the critical things that I'm going to want, having 3 full extended duration potions ready to go. With a bit more brewing, I took another look to see if there was just one more way for me to be able to make a bit of netherite scrap, and there really isn't. You could use netherite for more things, but the acquisition method is unchanged. So instead, I flew out, finding an amber patch that was somewhat close to the top of one of the ancient jungle trees, having to parkour my way up from branch to branch to be able to get close enough to mine it, and then just mining things up, trying to get more amber curiosities. I'm going to need a few for my final item that I want to craft, and using the time turner to return back to the top of the tree after collecting the ones on the ground is once again an abuse over one of my powers over the fundamental laws of the universe, just to make my life a little bit easier. Now that I have mending on everything, I headed back over to the Sculk area once again to just harvest up enough XP to fully repair my tools and armor, because they're about to take a beating and I want to make sure that they're going to survive it. There's a few more of the really tall pots in there that I hadn't seen yet, so I broke those all to pick up just a little bit more loot. Didn't really get anything other than a few disc fragments, fighting one of the tentacles and failing to kill it in time, so it immediately spawned a warden. Running away from that, I actually found a just random villager chilling in the middle of the cave right here, completely untouched by all the dangers around it. I was able to throw a little bit of coal their way to see what their upgrade and progression path basically looks like. I only got through a couple levels before they locked in, which told me it was probably night, so I had made my way back towards home to kind of double check on all of my dinosaurs, have them go through another breeding cycle to make even more eggs, and then headed into the house to trim my armor, adding some diamond details on top of everything else. So we're not just gonna finish this adventure, we're gonna end it in style. All right, and speaking of finishing this thing up, we're in the end game now. I jumped on my Subpteranodon and flew over towards the Candy Caves because, well, I've been running from the gummy worm for this whole adventure, and right now I have a laser gun and I really want to use it. I found the closest gummy worm that was swimming through the terrain here and just started blasting. And this helped me learn a lot about how the ray gun worked. It basically damage ticks over time, really quickly, by the way, but it also adds this sort of stun freeze effect to any enemy that you're hitting. Not enough to actually hold it in place. No, the thing kept jumping out of the ground and biting me after landing on my head, but it is pretty much the only way I can figure out to actually damage it, as it hits through me and then dives underground before I can do anything. But with a little bit of persistence and a whole lot of healing, I was able to beat it. Oh my. Sweet tooth. -1 attack speed? Sugar rush. Plus 70% speed. Crafting a Chris knife for one of the teeth was a somewhat unexpected reward, but this is nowhere near as good as it is in Dune. It basically allowed me to swing once, and then it's infinitely on recovery, but at least it'll be useful in cooking. The more interesting thing that I can make with the teeth, though, is somewhat a little more odd. So we're gonna have to head back home to do that, killing a few candy canes and creepers, trying to get on a Subpteranodon, and it turns out that wasn't actually mine. So I had to clear out a whole bunch more candy mobs before finally finding my ride and heading back home. I took a few of the gummy fish that I had collected from killing some of the mobs, starting to cook those up so I can make a sack of sating. And this thing is very weird and very cool. I don't like that. What we might be able to do, though, 100. I want to see how far we can push this. 267. Can I get it over 300 just for funsies? That's wild.
I still don't like it, but I kind of like it.
So basically how this works is I feed the bag and then the bag feeds me, keeping me at full saturation as long as it can use some of the saturation from the bag, which don't think about it too hard. Don't think about it too hard. It'll get me demonetized. But I did a little bit of enchanting with all of my levels, just trying to see if I can eke out some final optimizations on all of my gear, jumping on my Subpteranodon and flying over to the Sculk area to break down a whole lot of the Sculk blocks to collect some experience from myself. And somehow, after I had parked it in place, it suffocated in a wall. I genuinely don't understand how that happened.
Wait, what? Oh, no.
So I'm gonna need to get a new ride. I cleared out a few of the mobs that were just kind of pestering me, finding one more campsite that was nestled underneath a little ridge here that I hadn't seen before. Once I got my levels up to a point where I was pretty much happy with them, it's not final, but it's good enough. And the fact that I started getting a bunch of Sculk strikes, and I didn't want a warden spawning on top of me, on top of everything else that I'm doing here, I started making my way back home, grabbing a few more Trilo tails from the lake here so I'd be able to tame just one more Subpteranodon so I could be able to fly around a little bit. One had already landed inside my complex and I gave them all the tails I had, and they're a stingy one, so I had to go back to the lake to get more, clearing a whole bunch of them all the way through to the following morning, returning back home, cooking those up, and finally getting myself a new ride. And if I do one, I might as well go ahead and get two. And this time, this one's actually gonna live, so I took a name tag and named it. We have Terry, the Subpteranodon number 2. I put Terry in my notes. I don't remember if I mentioned Terry in the voiceover at all until now. So that name tag might not make sense, but I was constantly, at least in my head, calling them Terry. But as I was replacing my flying cohorts, my land-based ones had hatched and the army was growing.
Oh, the baby. The baby dino. Oh, you're so cute. Oh no, don't go that way. Don't go that way. You're gonna go to the nether. Where's the baby? Where's the baby? No, did they go to the nether? There's the baby. You stay there. You're too cute to get in trouble. Stay in the hole. It's like real life parenting.
Having to lean into some of my real life experiences, I replaced and moved around the bed on the bottom floor, took myself a quick nap so I didn't have to worry about phantoms with what I was about to do, and then hopped on the army and headed out.
Let's go, crew. You stay there, kiddo. Oh, yes.
While on the way, we practiced our attack patterns, taking out a few of the really tall tree-smashing dinosaurs with relative ease.
Oh, this is so fun. Look at me and the crew. This is awesome. Everything runs away. This takes so long on the ground. We are so much faster when we fly. I see the volcano. Oh, yeah, that's right. I make that happen. That's so cool. Get him, crew. Oh.
But having taken out the rival pack, I set all my dinosaurs down and in place, marveled at the army I had created, and began to ascend the volcano to summon the Luxstructosaurus.
Oh boy. Here we go. Oh, they all died so fast. Get him, Rexes! No, Trevorsaurus! Oh, it's immune. Here. Ow. I think irradiating it has turned off its healing, which is so good. Woo. Come on, one more hit, one more hit. Yes! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! That was intense. Where's the items? Oh, they're over here. Oh, gimme. Oh. Okay, come here. Oh my goodness, my armor almost broke too. Wow, that did so much damage. So I can do 1, 2, 3. One of these, 2 of these, and 1 spear to get the extinction spear. Now this could do some really cool stuff. You see that? I'm invulnerable. Know what? Since my helmet's almost broken anyway. Oh, I look awesome. Having come over here on foot, I needed to tame another subpteranodon to fly my way over. This one was much more amenable, requiring only 1 tail to be able to give me a ride and stopping and watching while I used the extinction spear to just obliterate a few enemies. I named this one Terry 3 to continue the bit that you didn't know was gonna be here until the very end of the video, and started to put away all of my gear, grabbing and crafting up a few blocks and heading out the following morning. On Terry 3, of course. Terry 2 is precious and must be protected at all costs. And, well, I promised you we'd end with a bang. So I put down all of the blocks, quickly forgot the nuclear weapon, made my way back over, placed it down, and prepared for the end. Thank you so much for another adventure. And now we end with a bang. But little did I know the risks of setting that bomb off and the dangers that it would create in my next reality.